Voy a tratar como quiera para que la constitución.
Okay, just before we get started real quick, I just want to give you a real quick report on my trip to Washington. It was, John and I were there all day Wednesday visiting different members of Congress and their staff. We had an opportunity to visit with Senator Hutchinson personally. We had an opportunity to visit with Senator Cornyn's staff, Congressman Ortiz, Congressman Chet Edwards, Congressman Lloyd Doggett, and we also visited our very own Brownsville native who works in Pelosi's office, and her name...
Cindy,
Cindy, not Cindy, that's my wife.
Jimenez.
Jimenez. Cindy Jimenez.
Well, I'm glad your wife's not in Washington.
Huh?
I'm glad your wife is here and not in Washington.
Yeah, that's right. And then we also visited with the Corps of Engineers office and also Congressman's office instead. That was in the House Appropriations. We were not there on that meeting, but we had good meetings, good responses. There's a big issue right now in Washington, D.C. with respect to money.
Yes.
All the money is being spent in Iraq and in the Gulf Coast as a result of Katrina, and so there was very, very, very limited funds. But the indications that we received from our Congress, members of Congress, was that they're going to work for us, and they're going to try to help, particularly on the issue of the railroad relocation projects, both railroad relocation projects. Senator Hutchinson expressed strong support for that. They were very interested also on our flooding in the Bahia project as well. And, so we'll see what happens. We're going to go back sometime in the near future just to kind of follow up and make sure that things are moving smoothly. But it's very encouraging that notwithstanding the limited resources that exist today in Washington, D.C., to have such a strong support from our congressional delegation and the responsiveness of them and their staff to the agenda that Cameron County promotes in Washington, D.C. So it was a really good meeting. We met all day Wednesday and then Thursday morning, and then we headed back in the afternoon. John, did you want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple others. When you were meeting with some folks, David and I had to come off and meet with some others. We met with the Surface Transportation Board about the status of the removal of the tracks in front of the courthouse here. And so we've kind of got more or less a guideline as to their timeline for it and what's going to be required to get it done. It's in the process of being worked on. We're going to follow up on that. We also met with several people from the State Department, especially those that serve on the Mexican desk for border issues along our border, our Mexican border, and talked to them at length about different projects and how things were going, what we were looking for in the future. And then in addition, Tuesday evening, the judge and David and I had an opportunity to meet with and visit the lady who is going to be our new American consulate in Matamoros. She'll be replacing John Nellen, who will be leaving in July. She'll be coming into office in August, and she's Ms. Herrera. She is a native of San Antonio and still has her mother living in San Antonio, and so she's real pleased to be close to where home is, and I think she'll do us a great job.
And the recent wife of Frank Herrera, who's a good friend of some of us.
Wonderful.
So,
well, I think it's appropriate that we make several trips and let them know. I mean, they're trying hard for us. They're doing we all know that our congressmen, our senators are really working for this part of the county and for Cameron County. And I think that it's appropriate that we show how interested and how much we appreciate and keep motivating them to do so. So I think that whoever arranged the trip, I think it's important that we continue doing this. And I'd like to see a schedule of some long-range plans of visits for Washington.
I also want to just reiterate the fact that, you know, with all the debate going on in Washington, D.C. on the immigration reform and everything that's going on in terms of the pushing back and forth on this issue, Senator Hutchinson took time from a really busy schedule and met with us. And you know, we always get a chance to meet with Congressman Ortiz, and I don't want to make light of that because he does have also a very, very busy schedule. But it was very encouraging to see her take her time and know exactly what our issues were, by the way. I mean,
she's always well informed.
She was really on top of everything, and it was very, very impressive that happened. So I did want to report on that. We pushed, you know, the railroad relocation projects. We pushed all our projects that deal with the intercoastal waterway realignment. By the way, we had an opportunity to meet with the barge owners and the Barge Owners Association and Tugboat Association, and we kind of worked out a compromise on a route, assuming that we can get approved by the Corps of Engineers on that. We pushed also the new funding for the permanent channel in the Bahia, $1 million project. We've got the interoperable system that we
Modeled that up.
we've been working on. We had a chance to meet with Congressman Doggett, who is sponsoring the levee maintenance and renovation initiative. It's a $9 million project, and that was we passed the word on to our senators about about how far up in our agenda it is that we do something about our levee. That's going to be a big issue because of the fact that you've got, you know, something like 360 miles of levees in the Gulf Coast for New Orleans that have to be rebuilt. It's going to cost something like $100 billion, some ridiculous amount, whereas our proposal is something like $9 million just for the first stage of the renovation. And they're not even looking at our stuff because everything is focused on the war. And
That's where the money's going.
yeah, the war and Katrina and a tax cut. They're pushing a tax cut.
So you covered all of the items that are priority list?
All our priority list, the Veterans Hospital, that's, we expressed, you know, our support for that. Trying to remember all the other items that we had. We had a long list of things that we spoke to our congressmen and senators about. And like I said, you know, they said, you know, we can help you on some stuff, but there is not a lot of money. But I think there's no question that they need to hear from us on a regular basis.
Definitely. And I, for one, would like to see an organized schedule of trips to Washington.
The more often
I don't know
we get
how
up
the
there,
rest
the
of them
better.
feel, but,
It really is.
Who's in charge of that?
We can put a schedule together, send it to the court. We'll
I
get
think
key
that would be-
dates between now and when they're going to act in the budget, and send out an email to the court. Make the arrangements.
Yeah, I think that'd be
We'll
good.
get
A lot of the schedule depends on what happens in Washington, based on what they're going to be acting on or when they're going to be acting on it. It's not necessarily what, it doesn't always fit what we would plan in the future,
Right, but
but
there
to
still
accommodate what
can
they're
be some-
doing
there
in
still can be
Washington,
some,
when they're doing it in Washington.
There still
I
can
think
be
it-
some structure to it.
It shows solidarity when
Yeah.
maybe other members of the board are invited to go. You know?
Yeah, no, I think a certain amount of structure, and I realize that, John. I realize how it works, but I think we can do a better job of at least informing people that the trips are coming, even if it's just maybe 3 or 4 days ahead. Right?
I know the northern part of the county would be more than happy to join you at any time.
Okay.
You're always welcome.
Someone
All you have
signed
to do is
up,
be ready to
someone
pack your
signed up for
bags
the-
when you get a call.
Yeah.
Someone signed up for public hearing.
Okay. All right, we have Juani Alfaro.
I have to get out.
Buenos días.
Muy buenos días.
Buenos días.
El motivo por el que estoy esta mañana aquí es por la falta de transportes. Vengo de la colonia Dagoro Estates. Vivo ahí desde hace 5 años con mi madre. En veces tengo que salir a llevar al doctor. He perdido citas para llevarla con el doctor. Salir al mandado de compras o visita. Y pues es mucha, mucha la necesidad. En veces yo agarro ya muy tarde el camión, el último camión que es a las 6 de la tarde. Camino por Entremonte para poder ir a comprar mi mandado, medicinas de mi madre y todo. Entonces, pues es por eso que estoy aquí pidiéndole su apoyo, ¿verdad? Pidiéndole su apoyo en nombre de toda la colonia. ¿Verdad? Yo les agradecería, pues, que nos apoyen, ¿verdad? Es no nada más yo, hay, la mayoría, nomás que muchas de las señoras trabajan, no tienen tiempo de venir, ¿verdad? Pero bueno, pues, ¿verdad? Por eso estoy yo aquí esta mañana para, ¿verdad? En nombre de ellas, ¿verdad? Agradecerles y pedirles su ayuda. ¿Verdad? Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna comment, I just wanna ask, is that what the meeting was like?
Yes, I was there last night.
Can we have an agenda item in 2 weeks on this issue? And have a workshop?
We have Bus making a presentation today.
Bus-
Oh, we do?
They're gonna have that.
Oh, okay, that's
We
fine.
can talk about it.
Tell them in Spanish.
Ahorita vamos a tener una presentación de el bus tocante esto y podemos discutirlo más cuando lleguemos al punto ese, ¿ok? No crea que no la estamos escuchando, está en la agenda para discutir a hoy. Y ahorita cuando haga la presentación a la gente de bus, si quieren ustedes dar comentarios tocante de esa presentación, están invitados. Okay. Okay. Let me take the next item. It's item number 2, and then we'll take the bus item, and then we'll go into executive session. Okay. Is that all right? People are waiting here. Presentation of a resolution recognizing Mr. Carlton Reyes for his outstanding community involvement. Come up. You know, sometimes certain people in the community live their lives, get up in the morning, go to work, support their families, and do what they can to take care of their families and to become good citizens, and live an entire life doing that. That's good. And sometimes citizens who live this ordinary life of going to work and taking care of their families do extraordinary things because they see a need to do them, and they take it upon themselves to become champions for a certain cause that they believe is important. to help the people that they live with. And when you do this, it is a commitment that is made not just to the community, but you make that commitment to the family as well, because you're taking away from them to a certain extent to engage in all these extra efforts. And it's very, very hard sometimes for a family when all this time and effort is spent doing things other than what people do every day to support their families and to make a life and make a home. And so we find individuals who have gone that extra step, become the extraordinary citizens, have made a commitment to the community and to their families, then we need to honor them and recognize them. Carlton is one of these individuals that I've seen over the years that decided that what has been happening to our shrimpers in South Texas is unjust and should be corrected. We have an obligation as citizens in this country and as a government to support those people who for so many years supported our economy in South Texas. Cameron County is the home of the largest shrimp fleet in the entire world. And it has gone through some difficult times in the last few years. And Carlton has spent a lot of time trying to help those people who are in this industry, people who are the owners, people who are working on the crews, the families of these individuals to make sure that they get their fair share in this country. So we wanted to recognize you, Carlton, for your efforts because we think that they've gone a long way towards improving the condition of our shrimping industry in Cameron County. There's a lot of work to do, and we're partners with you in this effort, but it never would have happened without your initiative on this. Let me read this resolution that you passed March 6th. Consideration and adoption of a resolution recognizing Mr. Carlton A. Reyes for his outstanding public service. Whereas Mr. Carlton A. Reyes is a longtime resident of Cameron County, having first come to the county in 1967 from his native Honduras. And whereas Mr. Reyes has followed from the maritime tradition of his family, including his father, who was a well-known captain serving on several boats in varying capacities until eventually becoming the captain himself. And whereas today Mr. Reyes is the owner of a seafood business that includes several shrimp boats and is well regarded as a leader in the business community. And whereas while the job of captain has always required an extraordinary degree of skill and knowledge, Mr. Reyes' level of achievement is so great that he also works as a certified marine surveyor and an adjuster of navigation instruments. And whereas Mr. Reyes is so highly regarded by his peers in the maritime industry that he has been elected as president of the Brownsville Port Isabel Shrimp Producers Association as a director of the Texas Shrimp Association and as Person of the Year by the local association. And whereas in community life, Mr. Reyes is equally distinguished, having served as a member of the Fresno Volunteer Fire Department, as a member of the Texas Firemen and Fire Marshals Association, as a firefighting instructor, and as having been appointed deacon of the First Baptist Church of Los Fresnos. And whereas those who know Mr. Reyes are familiar with his pride in family and country, which is reflected in his beautiful wife, Emma, his lovely daughters, and his oath of citizenship, which he took from Judge Rinaldo Garza in 1978. And whereas the Cameron County Commissioners Court wishes to recognize Mr. Carlton Reyes for his outstanding public service, now therefore be it resolved that the Cameron County Commissioners Court hereby recognizes Mr. Carlton Reyes for his outstanding public service. Unanimous vote this day of March 2000.
Thank you all. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. This is really an honor. I didn't expect it. I didn't know what to think, but Tony told me I had to be here this morning at 9:30, and I had to wear coat and tie. First thing I asked, they're going to throw me in jail. No, I don't think that's it. And then when we got in, He wouldn't let me read the agenda. He said, just go wait and see what's all about. But as the judge said, we're still struggling in the industry. As everybody knows, the fuel prices are not helping us at all, but we're still trying to make this industry work. It's a tough job right now. As the judge said, we are the largest shrimp fleet in the world between the Brownsville and Port Isabel ports. And so it's kind of a pride for Cameron County to have the biggest shrimp fleet in the world here. And so what I'd like to do is put a little plug in here. I'd like to encourage you when you're out at your favorite restaurant or at the grocery store, just ask for wild-caught Gulf shrimp. Okay? Thank you very much.
Well, I think that, I'm glad you gave that plug, Carlton, because we've been pushing that as well, and, you know, Cameron County has been working very closely with the shrimp producers to help in promoting the shrimp industry. We've got a legislative agenda that we pass for the state legislature, and when we have an opportunity on any federal issues, we also pass the word out. In fact, that's one of the things that we did talk about. And we also have been working very closely with, we did a couple of years ago in helping sign up a lot of the people in the shrimp industry to get benefits under a federal law that allows for benefits when you have displaced workers or workers who have been have reduced production as a result of the unfair foreign competition in the United States, and we're still fighting that fight as well. But it's a struggle that we all have to work together to fight, and we're with y'all, and we wouldn't be able to do what we've done without your efforts, Carlton. And thank you on behalf of the community.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Is there what's the bus? What's
Number 10.
10? Okay. Consideration and possible action regarding the Brownsville Urban Systems proposal in response to the Texas Department of Transportation request for proposal for job access and diverse commute grant.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's going to take a few minutes for my staff to set up, but I'll go ahead and start the presentation. Again, good morning, Honorable Judge and Commissioners. My name is Norma Zamora. I'm the Director for Brownsville Urban System, and here with me today is my staff, Tom Logan, who is our Transit Planner, Rodney Gomez, Assistant Director, and Alex Lorio, our Grant Writer. Back in November, we appeared before you seeking your assistance to continue public transit services to Cameron Park. And I want to thank you for your support, which allowed us to continue to provide public transit services to Cameron Park. At the time, we also presented to you a proposal for extending public transit services to the southeast area of Cameron Park, to the southeast area of Cameron County, provided we could obtain the necessary funding. TxDOT has released an RFP for its JARC grant program. BUS is proposing to submit an application for this job access reverse commute grant. The purpose for the grant is to provide public transportation services to colonias or low-income areas needing transportation services to jobs, training, and daycare. There is $2.3 million available to border cities from El Paso to Brownsville. We see this as an opportunity for us to expand our service and to help improve the quality of life for our Colonia residents. We are seeking funds from the county, Cameron Works, and others to leverage the federal funds that are available. This grant is a 50-50 split between federal and local funds. There are 178 colonias with approximately 47,000 residents in Cameron County. BUS is proposing to provide new transit services to Colonia residents in Cameron County. The proposed services to be provided include fixed route, demand response, and park and ride services. The fixed route service would be provided on a repetitive fixed schedule basis along a specific route with vehicles stopping to pick up and deliver passengers to specific locations. It will connect the colonias in the outlying areas of our current service area to our current fixed route system. The demand response service will be comprised of small buses operating in response to calls from passengers or their agents to bus. Bus will then dispatch a vehicle to pick up the passengers and either transport them or assign them to a subcontracting provider who will transport them to their final destination. The park and ride service would provide direct service to employees of major employers from colonia areas to their places of employment. For the proposed project, BUS is partnering with Lower Rio Grande Development Council, LaFleur Transportation, The Wave, and other transportation providers in Cameron County. Through various MOU agreements between each of the agencies, transportation services could be available to serve most of the colonias within Cameron County, with one or a combination of the services being proposed. At this time, I will turn over the presentation to Mr. Logan, who's our transit planner, who will go over the proposed services in more detail. He will discuss the proposed routes, the type of vehicles to be used, the hours of service, and days of service.
Could you repeat the number that you said for the number of colonias? Were you referring to the whole county?
Yes,
And what was the number?
178 colonias.
To me, there's more than that.
Well,
I think there's more.
Identifying.
Oh,
well, that are identified in the the GS.
Almost double the number that we have.
So that's a lot.
yeah, well.
They're identified in the Attorney General's office website, and that's the website that we're being told that we need to use to provide the services or to identify the colonias in our area.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm going to go over the proposed projects that we are incorporating into our grant proposal. The first one will be Route 30, southeast. That's going to be a fixed route with some deviation along the alignment. Route 30 will start over here by the airport on 700 Jose Colunga from our main yard. It will go through Norton, California Road, Dakota, Del Rio, Moses, making connection with the fixed routes, Route 8 and 6. Then it's going to continue east along Southmost Road, up Brownie, providing service to Valle Escondido, all these colonias over here in this corner of the region. And then go north on Brownie, providing direct service to the Brownie Park and all the new activities that are going to happen around the park, all the new services. Going to continue north, up to Boca Chica, and from here we'll also deviate if the demand is there, up to the Houston area, Houston Road and Brownie Road over here on Oklahoma. Then we'll continue west on Boca Chica to 511, then south on 511 to Duckberry, and back by Lopez High School and into our main terminal. We'll also make connection with Route 7 so that people can transfer to the general fixed routes and have access to the rest of Brownsville for employment, medical, and recreational activities. That's a fixed route with deviations that we're proposing with limited service. It's going to have service Monday through Saturday, but only 6 hours a day. And based on the survey that we're...
From what time to what time?
Well, currently the survey that we have, we distributed about 2,000 flyers in that area, and we're still we're still analyzing those surveys, but it indicates that the request for service is from 6 o'clock in the morning till till 8 o'clock, and then in the evenings from about 4 o'clock till about 7 o'clock.
Oh, it's split.
Yeah, it'll be a split service. It'll be limited, but at least it'll be some service.
Morning and evening.
Morning
Which is
and
for,
evening.
you know, going to work and then coming back.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
The next project in the proposal is route the direct
Park and
service.
Park and rides.
Park and rides. Direct service to the one of the main employers in the area, which is Anto. We were approached by them asking us to solve their parking issue. They already have a parking issue and they want to look into alternate options on how to solve that, and we're one of those options for them. We want to start a direct shuttle service from Cameron Park, where people can walk to the event center there and take the shuttle in the morning directly to Anfield and back after they finish their shift. We're proposing 1 hour in the morning, probably 5 to 6, so that they can be there to clock in at 6 a.m. And then in the evening from 6 to 7, so for the shift, the PM shift, to be able to take those trips and the people getting back to Cameron County, Cameron
How many people do we have from Cameron Park working at Anfield?
For Anfield, they have a big group.
According to AmFILS, they have a high employment rate from that area. And so they feel that that is something that would help their employees that would help their employees with fuel costs and also give them an opportunity to address some of their parking issues that they have.
And one of the beauties of this proposal is that they're willing to contribute
The local
match. So it's an added benefit for the county.
I was going to ask,
Yeah.
what are they doing? Because you're certainly helping MPhils.
Right.
Right.
It's a wonderful industry, wonderful company.
The second park and ride will start at our facility on 700 Jose Colunga by the airport. We have identified 5 acres that we can use for a park and ride. Park 500 vehicles there so that the people that live in Southmost in this area of Brownsville can go directly to the airport, leave their vehicles there, and take the shuttle up to Anfield. Also the same hours, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon, mainly to get them to the job site and back to their houses. Then another proposal is also to extend the Rio Transit rural route that starts at the downtown Brownsville and goes all the way to Port Isabel, Laguna Heights, and it connects to the WAVE, the South Padre Island Transportation Service. We want to extend it all the way to the ITEC, the university campus on what used to be the Amigo Mall. They want to use that as another option for park and ride for people that are coming from Matamoros or that southern part of Brownsville so that they can use public transportation to reach Anfield. That's another proposal that we're looking into. And those are mainly the projects for the direct, for Brownsville. On the, for the rest of the county, we're looking, Real Transit is proposing a new fixed route that is gonna start at the edge of 8377 highway. I think it goes La Feria.
County line? The county
On the
line.
county line.
The county line, take the expressway all the way into Brownsville, and they will provide service 6 days a week for limited hours. And that's coming from their budget. They're just asking for money for the vehicles, but they're not asking the county or the city. They're going to generate.
They have the local match for that.
But they'll come along the expressway?
Along the expressway, connecting all the communities along the expressway. down to Brownsville.
With deviated service.
Because 281 is where there's a tremendous need.
Heading into that one. Another proposal that we're going to ask Real Transit. They currently have Route 4. It initiates in Santa Rosa, by Relámpago. And it provides service 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
It starts where? Santa
Yeah,
Rosa.
Santa Maria.
Santa
You mean
Maria, I'm
Santa
sorry.
Maria?
Santa Maria,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
It initiates in Santa Maria and it goes, takes 281 with deviating service into Olmito and San Benito, and it connects to downtown Brownsville, our terminal here in downtown Brownsville. The proposal is to add the other 3 days so that we can have 6 days a week service on that route.
Great.
And also split, currently they're getting hours, the hours of service in that route is from 8 to 5, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Our proposal through this grant would be to change the service that's currently being provided there right now with rural transportation and expand that to 6 days a week, but also limited service in the morning and in the afternoon so people get to work and back in the evenings. And people that need to go do shopping or go to the doctor's appointment still can utilize the service and get business taken care of, in Brownsville, and then still know that they have a way to get back because the buses leave at a certain time in the evening.
Last but not least is the demand response service for the entire county. And we are coordinating this with Rio Transit,
And La Flor.
and other transportation providers so that we can have a dollar ride service for the entire county for work-related trips, work, training, or daycare services.
That's what qualifies under this grant. Is that it?
That's basically all the.
Judge, may I say something? I'm very, very interested in this project because of the fact that Brownie Park and the area around Brownie Park is growing so much. We're going to have not only the park there that we have, but very near in the future, we're going to have the week program over there. We're going to have the Head Start. We're having a school, maybe two popping up real quick, real close, a few hundred yards from Brownie Park there. Sooner or later, we're going to have to widen the streets and things like that. But I know that some of the people that live in the Valle Escondido, Valle Hermoso, I know personally some people have to wait late in the evening for their husbands to come back, and some of them don't even have a car, to be very honest with you. We take it for granted because a lot of us have 2 or 3 cars at home, and one breaks down, we take the other one, or we have other family members that can help us. Other people don't. They have children. A lot of them are single parents that have to do their chores, take them to the doctor, things like that, and it's so important that we look into this very, very carefully, Judge, because it's something that we're going to need so desperately. And I appreciate the fact that we're going to do the area in the southmost and Valle Escondido first, mostly as a pilot program or things like that. And I like the idea because it's growing so much out there. I don't know if you've taken a drive out there, but it's really, I went out there yesterday before I went to the meeting where you had it, Lopez. And all of a sudden you see the school right there. It wasn't there a few weeks ago, now it's there. And I understand that BISD bought another 10 acres to where they're gonna build another school. I don't know if it's a junior high or elementary or whatever, but it's gonna be a lot of traffic out there, a lot of people that are dependent on this project right here, and I really appreciate if you consider it.
Well, I'm really impressed with the route for 281 because that's desperately needed. There's a lot of people moving in, a lot of colonias that are just popping up. Like Pete says, it's happening all over the county, I'm sure.
Unfortunately, there's a lot more need than there is funds, and of course, we're going to try to do the best that we can with what we've got, and our submittal of the JARC application is contingent on how much local funds or local support is committed. The spreadsheet that I have passed, that is with your packets, outlines the cost by services to be provided and by local funding agencies we have approached. We're approaching several funding agencies to see if we can get commitments from the other agencies also. For Cameron County, we're looking for Route 30. It's $87,000. The total cost for the 2 years is $174,276. The Federal Transit Administration would pay 50% of that cost, which is $87,138. Therefore, $87,138 would have to come from a local commitment to be able to leverage those additional $87,000. For the Cameron County Demand Response Expanded Rural Service, which includes 281 and call and demand services to the northern side of Cameron County, is for the 2-year program, it's $305,993.10, with federal funds contributing $152,996. Now we're looking to have that portion of the fund split between Cameron County, Cameron Works, and the VIDA program. Those are the agencies that we're currently approaching. We're also approaching other agencies, but we still haven't gotten, and these numbers still aren't final. They still haven't committed the funds. They are looking at the numbers, and they would get back to us Of course, the park and ride service for Cameron Park and Southeast Brownsville, we're looking at AmFILS for the local match for that service. So that would be contingent on AmFILS paying for that service, and therefore the federal government paying the other local match for that. We also are looking at purchasing another vehicle for the to provide the service on Route 30, and that would require no local match because vehicles are paid 100% by this grant. And we're looking at $30,000 for marketing services, and we're currently talking to some of the promotora agencies who will provide us in-kind support of the services that they provide with the time that they spend promoting public transportation. And we're also looking for an individual on this grant to manage the program for the 2 years at a rate of $70,000, and that will come from the federal portion and also from Cameron Works is who we're looking for that. Therefore, the total amount that we're looking for Cameron County is, okay, first of all, the total cost for the 2-year program is $756,453, of which $403,226.55 would be paid by the federal government, and then we're looking at the other portions to be paid from Cameron County. We're looking at $163,636.
For 2 years?
For 2 years.
Can you explain the 2-year period, why you're looking at only a 2-year period?
This program is came available under an initiative that was assigned 2 or 3 years ago to assist colonias, and then after the 2 years, we were supposed to be able to pick up the service with local match. But in this last legislation, they did pass a bill that would, if we're successful, we would be able to apply for continuous funding for the rest of the transportation bill, just like we do for regular fixed route service. So it's contingent. They're giving us 2 years to prove that the project we can make it successful, and if it is successful, then we will be able to continue to apply for the funds on a yearly basis.
Norma, you're going to have to hire more drivers and buy buses and things like that, right?
Of course, yeah, and that's what the costs that we're charging for would cover. It would cover the cost of the drivers that need to be hired.
Operations.
The operations.
Okay.
Are there any tolls generated with any of these routes? They're free? People can just get on the bus and go?
No, we do collect fares. The fares have been taken into account. The fares.
Where on this budget do you take that into consideration?
The fares are already allocated into these costs that are here. The fares are going to be, understand, the fare is minimal compared to the cost of providing the service. The fares would be pretty much the same fare that we currently have for the fixed route service. For the Brownsville area would be $1 per trip. For general fare, and then we would implement the same fare structure that we have for Brownsville. Now, for trips that are beyond and a further distance would fall under the fare structure that Rio Transit currently provides, and I believe their fare structure is $2.
So where is the credit given for the fare structure on this proposed budget?
Okay, well, you don't, in this proposed budget, it's already been taken into account here, so
but, I don't see it credited in response to the cost of, in other words, there should be some, if the case is Rio Transit is not free, they have a fare and they do collect some money for every trip that they put an individual on their transit buses on.
The cost would be more than what is here, less the credit, which would give you this total.
Yeah, but it's not shown in this paper.
Okay. Well,
report.
And we can show you that if you want. I don't have the backup to this information, but these are the final costs that we came up with.
So in reality, what you're saying, I'll just take the one for 281, the 305,993 is really more. That's what you're telling us.
Right. Because we've already we've decreased the cost of the fares that would be collected for that area.
Yeah, but it should be reflected in the report.
Okay.
So what is the proposed budget of what your application is for?
The proposed budget for the total project, if we're successful in acquiring all the local match for all this, is going to be submitted for $756,000. If we can get the local match from each of the entities that we are are requesting the local match for. Now, if we're not able to acquire all the funding that is necessary, we will implement the program in stages and in phases as funding becomes available.
And you have that priority list already in place?
We have, well, Route 30 would, pretty much in the order that you see it right there. Route 30, then the demand response for expanded rural service, which would include 281 and call and demand to the
So
rural.
this, in essence, is your priority list?
Right. Because 281 at least has some service right now, whereas the southeast side doesn't have any service at all.
And what is the service that 281 has now?
It's
3 days a week,
It's 3 days a week,
3 days
Monday,
a week.
5
but
to
it's
8.
real transit,
Right, it's real transit.
which is a service that we have in that end of the county.
So we could delay implementation, but it continued to fund it for a 2-year period from that delayed period? In other words, if we elected to say we want to get, based upon our budget, because you're asking essentially that we spend $80,000 a year, that is a new amount of money that we've got to find.
Right. Well, I need to mention that the application is due at the end of the month. The funds won't be necessary, we won't need the funds till September of this year, which will allow you the time to budget into your next budget cycle. The implementations of this service will not be effective.
But I understand that, and that's, I guess, the way we did it last time. What I'm asking is that if we delayed implementation till October 1, till 2007, do we still get 2 years from that date? Or?
Oh, yes, the service would start, implementation of this service wouldn't start anyway till October or November of this year.
Right.
And it
First.
would be before, yes, that's when it'll start.
Well, what I'm saying is, this is 2006. If we delayed our implementation till 2007, does that mean we still get 2 years from that date?
From October 2007?
Yes.
The fund, well, yes, we would get the funding according to my staff, but there is a time limit within that we can spend this money also.
Well, it would be 2 years till 2009.
2009. Right.
Is what I'm saying. And the only reason I say that is because this budget cycle is going to be difficult for us based upon certain new needs that have come up this fiscal year that have to be incorporated into the new budget cycle of 2006, of October 2006, 2007. And so I'm wondering whether, if we could have a little bit of breathing room to deal with those issues and then bring this project in a year, because we've already made the commitment on that other route through Cameron Park that we decided to fund.
Right.
And I don't remember how much that was, but it was like
That was $21,000.
$21,000. And I'm not sure that we still add and add and add and add. I know that DA's office is going to be coming to us with a major funding request real soon that we're going to have to incorporate on our next fiscal year. And I'm kind of worried about making commitments now until we get a better handle for our budget for the fiscal year 2006, 2007.
Is Mr. Yates here or not?
No, he's not.
His
No,
father.
Mr. Ullman,
Father
yeah.
passed away.
Mr. Ullman.
We have a representative.
How much do we have right now committed to transportation projects such as this from the county? Do you have any idea? How much do we have that we're spending now on the 3-day service that's already occurring in the Cameron County area, up and down the colonias on 281? You don't have any idea? I don't think we're committed any money to that, right?
We have the 21,000.
Right, but
That they-
right now, there's being service provided by Rio Transit for the 281 area that is not costing Cameron County taxpayers directly, and I mean countywide, a penny. So who's funding that right now?
That comes from the state.
They currently receive state funds and federal funds to provide that service. This program is a new program and does not fall under those funding sources. So we are being asked to go out and seek new local matches to leverage those federal matches down.
In order to expand the service.
Right, in order to expand the services to the dark area. This would be a way for us to expand the services, because the monies that we're currently getting to provide, for example, the service that we're currently providing Brownsville, we can't use those funding sources for this project. We need to identify different local matches to
Right.
leverage this
But
cost.
just as we're identifying matches today, I'm sure matches were identified to provide the service that exists now.
On 281?
Yeah.
The 3-day.
I mean,
Yeah.
Who
I-
did the match?
And Lower Rio Grande Development Council, and it's there, they provide the match for their funds. What we would be doing is, we would be taking the lead for the transportation services for Cameron County, and Lower Rio Grande Development Council would subcontract with us, and with the fundings that we acquire, they would be able to expand the service, hopefully to 5 or 6 day, to meet the need in that area.
Because if my calculations, and they might not be, it costs like $1,000 a day to provide the service from the demand area of Cameron County? Is that I don't know, you've got some staff people here, maybe, I mean, to provide service each day in the Cameron County demand area would cost about $1,000 a day?
Pretty much, because for Brownsville, on one route, we provide 12 trips on a day. It's about $700 to $900 a day for that route. Now, we're saying we want to provide the same service to the entire, and it won't be the same level of
No,
service.
because it'd be
Right.
morning and evening or something like that.
Right, which decreases the costs. But this is a combination of services that we would be providing. We would be it depends what funds how much funding we get as to what we would be able to provide.
Do you have, I'm sure you're tracking as to, I would be interested to see the services that you're providing now, and what kind of a response have you gotten?
Right.
You know,
Well,
how many passengers per day and so on?
Well,
We
right
don't
now-
have anything like that here, do we?
no, right now, well, on the route that we have for, that you gave us for Cameron Park, the routes that we were able to establish that right now are transporting 123 passengers on a daily basis and as an average. But that's just a brand-new route that just started. And it's transporting 123. I can give you an example also of a route that Rio Transit also provides, which is the route that goes from Brownsville to Port Isabel. That route is transporting approximately 2,000 passengers a month.
How about the other route, coming
Yeah.
from the west? Has Rio Transit told you what their numbers are?
Yes, I talked to them earlier, and they said that they're transporting.
It's a 3-day-a-week route, I know.
Yeah, it's a 3-day-a-week route. People don't really utilize it for work because they can't depend on it for work. But I believe.
Why is it, excuse me, why is it they can't depend on it for work? Because that's one of the most major objectives.
Well, it is, but it's only for 3 days, and most people work more than 3 days. So they'll use it for those days, but then they also need another form of transportation for the other days that they're currently not provided. And usually, the service is from 8 to 5, and most people need to be at work by 8 o'clock, and so we need to provide the service earlier and a little bit later.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, well, why don't we, let's look at this money issue
Okay.
and get back. What's the deadline? By when do you need to know?
Actually, what we need right now is a letter from an endorsement that you endorse the project that we're currently working on. We will require no funding for that, and then a letter of commitment pending that we are successful on getting the funds. Now, what we're looking at is 163,000. You could commit maybe half of that to start maybe Route 30, and then look at the possibility of then coming back and doing Route 4, 281, or we can break it down in phases as funding is available.
But when do you need to know, is what I mean?
We would need to know something by next week,
By next Monday?
by next Monday.
I mean, I think we can pass a resolution supporting it. I don't think that right now we can pass a resolution giving any financial commitment, because I need to talk to that young man back there with his glasses, and it's not Alan.
Okay.
To find out what we're looking at, because, it's a big financial commitment that.
Right.
We know it's important. It's a good deal for the amount of money that we're being requested to spend, but it's a question of whether or not there's just money there for us to be able to spend and make that commitment. We have, we have a lot of needs that are arising in the county, and I'm just not sure where we're at financially for the next fiscal year. We don't want to raise taxes, and so we're trying to avoid anything of that nature. And we also have this yearly commitment of cost of living increase for our employees that we always want to make sure that we meet that obligation. And so, taking all those factors into consideration, at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much money is left over, if any. And so I need to find out from Javier where we're at, and I don't think we can, well, at least from my perspective, I don't think we can pass a resolution making a financial commitment until we've had an opportunity to analyze where we're at down the line. We can pass a resolution supporting it, but that's just, we want to make absolutely clear to you
Right.
that that doesn't mean that we're going to have to be able to come to the table with money. We might, but I don't know.
Is it too late for next Tuesday?
Yes.
I mean, to know something? I mean, Monday would be the deadline?
Oh, Tuesday, or the application is not due till the 20th.
By Tuesday, we might be able to know something. I'm gonna work real hard
Right.
with the judge on that. And
The
We're
other,
gonna-
yeah.
We're going to try to meet on Monday anyway, because I have to be in Austin on Tuesday for
bueno,
Texas
pues,
Transportation.
Now, this isn't showing, you said that AmFELS is also matching.
Yes.
I don't
It's
see.
on there.
AmFELS is $58,092.
Over here, okay.
Yeah.
So their commitment is $58,092.
For the services that they're wanting to implement.
The park
that they
and
will-
ride.
It is a park and ride.
Two locations.
Okay. All right, so what do you want? I mean, I already told you what we can do. I
Right.
mean, we can pass a resolution in support of it,
Okay.
but it's just a paper resolution. It doesn't say we're going to come to the table with money yet.
And that's fine. We can submit the application with that, and we can also, if the fundings come available before the application is awarded, then we're able to submit that letter to put an unfunded support,
Is there a motion
unfunded support.
To do that. Motion by Commissioner Benavides. Is there a
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And I want to commend y'all for this effort. I think this is very good, just something very much needed by our rural residents. Transportation is a big issue for our community, particularly now with huge gas prices that people are looking at today. It ensures that people keep their jobs. It's a good thing all the way around. It's just that, we're getting burdened from all different ends, and we, at some point, need to figure out where we're at before we can make any other financial commitments.
Right.
And
I
for the
understand.
people that don't speak English, like the lady back there, I would like to explain. Vamos a dilatarlos un ratito, una semana nada más, para ver de dónde sacamos los fondos, señor. Estamos haciendo el esfuerzo posible, créanmelo, para ver, porque no podemos hacer una decisión de dar dinero inmediatamente porque no sabíamos cuánto, ni qué, ni nada. Entonces la semana que entra ya, el lunes aproximadamente.
We don't have to do it as Monday. I think she said just submit the application
Okay.
and then buy us some time.
Support within 5
Para el lunes sabemos algo.
Ya sabemos algo.
Okay.
I don't think we'll know by Monday.
Well,
We'll try.
we'll try.
Thank you.
Okay, did we vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Someone from South Padre Island was here, but they left.
Dewey?
They needed Dewey, needed? Okay, because we're gonna go into executive session. He never came back.
There she is. Ballesteros.
No,
Dewey Cashwell.
Dewey Cashwell?
I think he was here with the ferry landing.
I don't know. I don't see him out there. All right, do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So, second.
Oh, yeah, there he is, okay. I thought you had gone, Dewey. So item number 15 is what we need to take out of order?
It's a public hearing.
Okay. Consideration on public hearing to discuss proposed grant project submitted to the Texas Department of Transportation Statewide Transportation Enhancement Project. The motion to go into executive session by Commissioner, I'm sorry, public hearing by Commissioner.
We had a motion and a second for executive session. Do you want us to?
Yes. Okay, do y'all want to withdraw the motion in a second?
Yes.
Okay, and then now there's a motion to go to public hearing by Commissioner Tamayo. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
By Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now in a public hearing.
Judge, Commissioner, the reason we put this on is part of the requirements when we submit the grant application to TxDOT under the Statewide Transportation Enhancement Program. We have to have a public hearing, and we felt best that it'd be best to have it here. And we invited Dewey from South Padre Island, City Manager, to discuss his proposal on item 19, which is the it's a visitors and transportation center, and we're looking for a site that would, try to accommodate it. And other things that we need to do is we gathered some of the projects. There's I think 4 projects. Was it 4 projects, Jeff?
3 projects that were submitted.
Three projects that the county is submitting, and we need either an okay, and I guess through adopting the resolution, that'll give us, the support from the court. But we also need to rank them, whatever the court wants to set as priority. And the 3 is the Isla Blanca Park ferry landing. The other one is the Our Lady of Visitation Visitor Center, the church in Santa Maria. It's a restoration project, and El Camino de Isla Blanca Park. That's going to be a hike and bike trail that goes through the park and connects our existing trail to the town of South Padre Island's trail. And, go ahead.
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. Thanks so much for moving this up on the agenda. I appreciate that consideration. Pleased to be here with you today, first to celebrate, at least verbally, the fact that the Board of Aldermen has approved moving forward to collaborate with the good folks with Cameron County and Cameron County Parks on the ferry boat landing project, a very significant project, but also to ask your consideration for endorsement and the approval of a resolution for another project that we have in mind for the island, one that ties nicely into the ferry boat landing as well as the rest of the transportation issues that's being put forward by your Cameron County Parks folks today. That is the transportation center that you see before you. What we have in mind is a joint effort with Cameron County to do the visitor center, or a visitor center within this facility, as well as tying into the hike and bike trail, as well as tying into the ferry boat landing. The idea behind the transportation center is one in which it will be multimodal. In other words, there will be several types of transportation folks will be able to access through the center. The concept is essentially that of a parking structure of 3 to 5 stories. At the ground level, we would have the home port for the wave system, obviously a very important function on the island for everyone who visits there. To have those buses be able to be there on a regular basis to pick up folks who come to the island either by way of vehicular transportation or by the ferry boat or what have you, and be able to then access the public transportation, park their cars and leave them at the parking center, and then be able to ride bikes, the bus, pedicabs, or anything else that they might be able to choose in the way of transportation other than taking their vehicles. We have a continuing challenge on the island, as I'm sure you're aware, with regard to traffic and parking, and that's not going to go away. And so this is a wonderful way to deal with that in an alternative method. We do not know at this point exactly how much this facility will cost, but we're estimating it somewhere between $5 and $7 million. In addition to the things that I've mentioned, we will have opportunity.
Who's going to pay for that?
Well, we are going to appeal for about 80% of those funds, and the balance of those funds will be paid for by the town of South Padre Island, assuming the application is approved.
Where would it go?
It would go to the center itself, to the construction.
Where would it be
What
built?
we're discussing, Judge, was right there where our old office used to be, which is right next to the entrance to the park, to Michael Park, the toll booth. That was one of the sites.
Right.
How big is it going to be for $5 or $6 million?
Well, we're anticipating anywhere from 3 to 5 stories.
You mentioned that the town of South Padre Island would pay the 20% match.
Yes, that's correct.
Because the resolution says the town of South Padre Island, with assistance from Cameron County government, will provide the required 20% match. Can we scratch that assistance from Cameron
Well,
County?
you're welcome to, but we considered Cameron County's assistance to be that of locating the project,
The land.
siting
Okay.
the land.
Site.
That's correct.
We just need to clarify that.
Yes, sir, that'll be
We're not
fine.
out $1 million
Yes, sir.
or something.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Well, the land's pretty valuable there anyway, so, okay.
And this center is going to be, I think, quite a flag waver for the area. I don't think there's another project like it anywhere in the state of Texas. Finally, we'll have franchise operations available to derive revenue to help repay the cost on the building, perhaps a restaurant on the top or some other operation at the lower floors. And then finally, on the very top, we're hoping to be able to site a heliport, which will facilitate transportation, both public and private, hopefully be able to tie together with the local airports and provide a shuttle service at some point that is sorely needed in that area.
You know, I can't envision where this is going to go. I mean, with all this controversy involving the Isla Blanca Park and doing stuff to Isla Blanca Park, and this is this is exactly what people are talking against right now. And I'm not sure that this is not going to interfere with all the things that people have been saying that the other development is going to interfere with. You know, I need to see this. You know, and I need to see where it's going to go. I need to see how much land is going to be taken up. I mean, I'm having a problem with going forward on a $6 million project in an area of land that is under discussion right now with respect to any development. I don't think that I'm prepared right now to support anything unless we see where it's at unless we know where we're at with respect to any development on Isla Blanca Park. You know,
What is transportation history? A museum of transportation history.
Well, that's, frankly, Commissioner, that's one of those items that the State Department of Transportation is looking to see as a keynote item in any of their facilities if they can get it.
But you'd figure if we do a museum of some sort, it would be something that would be more conducive to aquatic life, to the environment, I mean, transportation
This has to be a
doesn't seem to
transportation
be.
theme. And what I would anticipate is that this would characterize what's transpired with the history of Port Isabel, Cameron County, and the island over the last 50 years as the transportation has moved from boats to bridges to the current causeway to a second causeway, and then full circle back to another ferry boat landing. It'll be a small element, but it's one that helps ensure that they'll give favorable consideration to the application.
So actually, you're trying to just fit a piece of the puzzle for the application.
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct.
And then a helicopter landing port on top
Yes.
of this building?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that just doesn't, to me, I mean, I think of a helicopter tour and I think of maybe Las Vegas or something. I mean, that's not necessarily what I envision at Isla Blanca Park. South Padre, well, I can't speak for that. But at Isla Blanca Park, I just don't think that I could, support a helicopter, a helipad there. I'll be very honest with you. That's just my thoughts. Maybe I shouldn't be making them, but.
Maybe we have some other people in the audience.
I just think that there's some of
It's a
us
hearing, right?
that want to revisit this issue of development on Isla Blanca Park. We're having a hard time with it, not just because of a lot of people expressing concerns about it, but because we think that this is probably something that we really need to take a closer look at.
Well, Judge, we would anticipate that this would be highly complementary to that project, and we've spoken with the...
Well, I don't see that.
I mean, hike and bike, I can see that, okay? I mean, but a 5-story structure with parking, I don't know.
Dewey, some of our, I think at least in my case, I think there's been some cross-contamination between this, because this has been talked about for a while now, and the development that we've been looking at on Isla Blanca Park's been talked about for a while now. And I think a lot of the public has in their mind that they're going to have to come to a facility like this, park their vehicle, and then ride some type of other or walk within Isla Blanca Park. And so that cross-contamination has created some misunderstandings, I think, among some of the public about what's actually going on and what's actually happening, what's being proposed. Because that's not the case in either situation. But I can see where this could be a good means to reduce some of the traffic throughout the island. And certainly, Commissioner, well, I guess all I have to say.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I think we're seeing people come to the island now, to South Padre Island, to the city there, that have the means and have the condos they buy and the properties they own there and the type of travel they do. They fly into airports here. It's not beyond their normal scope of operating to catch a helicopter like they do in Las Vegas and hop somewhere else, as opposed to taking a mode of transportation we'd take, a car or a bus or a taxi. They hop a helicopter and go to their destination point, and then someone picks them up there and delivers them to their condo or wherever they're going. So these are things that are growing in the community and far-reaching, and I appreciate that.
We'll also enhance the emergency services capability.
Sure.
That's the primary purpose of citing this, because we need a better all-weather facility, and we've done all of the research and done the planning and engineering for such a heliport already.
Did none exist within the town of South Padre?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not at this point.
Thank you.
Do we have any other people in the audience?
Anybody else? Oh, thank you, Dewey.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak on this issue? Okay. Well, do I hear a motion to approve item number 19?
Well, we're in a hearing.
We're in a hearing.
We're in 15.
Close hearing. Do you
We've
have
got
anything else?
others
I
to
was
talk
going to ask, do y'all
about.
have any questions on the other proposals?
No.
Well, one I have on 16, we're talking about doing a ferry landing. What's the prospect of getting a ferry to use that landing?
This is not this is a ferry, as I understand from talking to TxDOT, I'll explain it to you. As what I understand, this is a ferry that they want built in the case that we have another causeway collapse.
I understand that. And that's what I understand. So if we have another causeway collapse, then in a few days or a week, they can get a ferry down here to ferry people back and forth. TxDOT has spent how many millions of dollars reinforcing the areas of the causeway by building out more bollards and all this other stuff that they call this stuff to hopefully avoid a collapse. That doesn't mean that it won't happen, because it certainly can happen. But how much are we talking about building a ferry landing when we don't have a ferry?
Well,
Wouldn't it be nice to figure out some way to get a ferry, to use that also?
Well, and I think that's good, but I just want to tell you one little thing on this request. I had a lot of questions about it myself, John. But we were requested to make this request by TxDOT.
because they want us
And so I
to
think-
have something in
Well, they
place.
ought to pay
I
for
think
all
they
of
ought to
it.
pay
yeah.
for the whole thing then. That's, I'm like David. They ought to
Well,
pay for the whole
except that,
thing.
I mean, you're talking about an agency that has been really working
Yeah,
with
we
us.
can- yeah.
We really need to,
You know, we
when they
like
ask
them
us to-
too. We like them too, but
If they want to put a ferry down here and they operate a ferry, then I see us paying
Right.
our part.
I
But if
mean-
we don't have an operating ferry,
What our thoughts were, Commissioner and Judge, and I never mentioned this as
what else
Judge,
can we
but,
use it for?
well, we could use it almost for anything.
Fishing pier.
You know, we're gonna have to dredge it, you know, we're gonna build, they call them dolphins coming out, you know, when the barge comes in and brings it,
Okay.
the ferry in. But what we've requested, we were on the agenda, I guess, a week ago with the town of South Padre Island, requesting their financial assistance on this project. And what we wanted to do is, if we ever concession that thing out for anything, if it's a pedestrian ferry or vehicle ferry, whatever, throughout the year, that we would go into a cost-sharing agreement with them, since they're going to help us financially with the 20%. I mean, but we could concession that out, and TxDOT doesn't have any issues with that. Further uses, and in the event of emergency.
Tricky thing to have a ferry there, by the way. Remember when the Causeway collapsed, I mean, those boats would have a real hard time docking because of the currents and stuff in that area.
yeah, but that's because we had a makeshift docking area.
Right.
Where
This
you
is gonna
talking
be
Yeah.
dolphins on the
Correct.
side. This is
about?
gonna be.
Where is it gonna be at?
you
It's
know.
gonna be right next to the, in between the Coast Guard and where we're gonna build our boat ramp, with that fence right there.
So, but you
It's where
know,
it's where we had the other ferry,
In the same
the
place?
same place.
But we had the other ferry where the Boy Scout stuff was.
Well, then we brought in that second ferry and we,
moved it over.
Adjusted.
But do we even own that land anymore?
That's not the.
yeah, we do.
That's not the land that somebody inexplicably.
I would like,
No, and-
I would like a commitment for a ferry of some sort. I mean, I know it's hard to do, but you know, I mean.
I'd like a ferry. I think it'd be exciting. I think
I think
it'd
it'd
be
be
a good transportation.
a good mode of transportation. I think it would be, you know, something
So then-
else to do on
Those-
the
So
island.
then we should do this.
There was a private
Yeah,
individual.
but we need a commitment for a
Need a
ferry.
ferry.
You
There
know,
was a
this is
private-
just a
From
landing,
TxDOT,
you know.
you're
If you
talking.
build them, they will come.
Yes.
There was a private individual that approached the town, and I guess they solicited, you know, I guess interest in it, was to bring in a ferry, a pedestrian ferry, to the island. They didn't know that we were building, or we were applying for this, they just had sent a letter over to the town of South Padre Island, and they shared that letter with us, but,
Well, even a pedestrian ferry, at least it'd be used for something.
oh, yeah.
Instead of just building it and sit there for
Okay.
nothing.
Yeah.
All right, anything else you have? Anybody else have any public?
On this ferry landing, Judge, we're gonna build a trail that's gonna connect from the ferry landing to our existing trails at Isla Blanca Park. And we're also applying for a grant to connect the existing hiking bike trail from South Padre Island to our existing hiking bike trails into the park. Port Isabel has also committed that if this grant gets funded, they're gonna continue the trail, paseo project to the ferry landing. So you're gonna have connectivity, continue around the whole Laguna Madre area.
The only thing is missing is the ferry.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
Missing
and
link.
Is there a
Missing
grant
link,
for a
they call it.
ferry?
I think it is one
Well-
of those, if you build it, they will come.
I tell you what, like the judge says, if you build it, they will come. And Mr. Dewey Cashwell received a letter from a private individual saying that they were interested in bringing a ferry down to the area. And so
I can see a ferry being an added attraction,
Oh, it'll be-
especially, you know, among the youth.
Sure.
You know, when families come with their kids and they get to ride a ferry, it's an exciting thing. I know it was when I was little. And, you know, between Port Isabel and South Padre Island, you can see dolphins and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. So it'd be a good,
part
Okay.
of ecotourism, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing is that TxDOT would like for us to rank these 3 projects, and that is El Camino de Isla Blanca Park, which is to extend the hiking bike trail from the town of South Padre Island city limits into the park. And the other one is the restoration of Our Lady of Visitation, the Catholic Church in Santa Maria, which we're gonna restore it for a museum and for a visitor
Give us a
center.
recommendation on the ranking.
Yes, how do you feel?
Javier,
Is a ferry number 1?
we
The non-existent ferry.
looking.
I'd say 18,
18, 16, and 17, or something?
What do you have?
The hiking bike trail, the Camino de Isla Blanca.
That's number 18, right?
Right, that's number one.
So we
So that's
rank that
number
one.
Okay.
And two, what?
I don't know if y'all want us to, visitation to the church.
On 15, on item 15, we've got all four of them. Let's look at that.
That's, yeah, that's the public hearing, and
Yeah.
since we're here,
Yeah,
the
but
public
we
hearing.
yeah, but we just
wanna
wanna
rank 'em.
But they've got all four of them listed there.
Okay, so we do 18, 17, and 16? No?
Yeah, we're gonna rank counties, not.
I know.
Yeah, just what we're gonna.
Right, and we're just talking right now, because this is a public hearing. Okay. So it would be
18 is one.
18, 17, and 16?
Why don't you name them by name?
18 is the Camino Trail, whatever it is.
At Isla Blanca
Isla
Park.
Blanca Park. 17 is Our Lady of Visitation Visitor Center. And 16 is the ferry.
Yeah, but what order?
In that
Wait a
order.
minute.
In that order?
And you've got one more,
18, 17,
Which
and
is the
16.
which is the other one?
which is Isla Blanca South
19.
Padre Island Transportation
No, we-
Center.
Well, that's not
That's
ours.
not-
That's
ours.
That's not
It's gonna be a
But
self-evident
y'all
application.
want a ranking on it?
No.
You don't want a ranking on it? Okay.
They're only doing one.
Just the three.
Yes,
So
that's
what we're ranking.
again, it was 18, what?
18 is 1, 17 is
17.
2, 16 is 3.
As they appear on item
You go
15.
backwards.
Okay.
Accept.
And on Our Lady of Visitation, do we have an agreement already? I mean,
I've talked with David Garza.
No.
I've made some changes to the amendment to the county.
yeah, but it hasn't been approved by us, has it?
Not yet.
I haven't seen it.
No,
come
and
to
we're
us.
still waiting. Javier had them do a survey, and he said it should be done probably today or tomorrow. So
What
we
was
can attach
pending
it.
was a survey. That's all they were waiting on.
So we can put it back on for, Monday.
All right, do you hear a motion to close public hearing? Is
So
that it?
moved.
All right, motion by Commissioner, second motion by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, on 16, consideration and adoption of resolution supporting the submittal of an application to the Texas Department of Transportation statewide transportation project enhancement program for project nomination provided by the Texas Department of Commission for the Isla Blanca Park Ferry Landing. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. 17, consideration and adoption of a resolution supporting the submittal of an application to the Texas Department of Transportation statewide transportation enhancement project for a project nomination provided by the Texas Transportation Commission for Our Lady of Visitation Visitor Center. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion
Nay.
carries. 18, consideration and adoption of a resolution supporting the submittal of an application to the Texas Department of Transportation statewide transportation enhancement project for a project nomination provided by the Texas Department of Texas Transportation Commission for the El Camino de
So moved.
La Isla Blanca
Second.
Park.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And so can we just verbally express to you
Yeah,
the
one more.
order of priorities?
I think number
Well, I
19.
think
I'm
we
not
did.
ready for that
It's
yet.
already been done.
So you know that we haven't voted on that, but we gave you the order of priorities. Do we
Yes,
need
yes.
to vote in order of priorities? Because there's nothing,
No, you don't, Judge.
you know what they are.
We know what they are, and we're just gonna put it on the grant. The grant specifies which ranking do you recommend this to be submitted as.
Okay, thank you. And 19, consideration and adoption of a resolution supporting the submittal of an application to the Texas Department of Transportation statewide transportation enhancement program for a project nomination provided by the Texas Transportation Commission for Isla Blanca South Padre Island Visitor and Transportation Center. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve that? Does anyone?
I'll make the
want-
motion.
There's a motion by Commissioner Benavides. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve a resolution supporting the submittal of an application on item number 19. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. Okay, motion to go into, is there another item to take? I know you're waiting, John, but we got our lawyers here and.
Moving on to executive
Hold on,
session.
hold on. What do you got, Johnny?
Wellness program.
What number?
Wellness program.
Is it gonna take a long time? Okay, we'll take it. Consideration and possible action regarding implementation of a new wellness program. Can you do that real quick?
Okay, this is a recap of what we did before, about 2 months ago. We told you about a new wellness program that we wanted to implement. We already have a wellness program. This will just complement what we existingly have. Terry?
Well, I just have a couple things I'm going to hand out, and I think
If it's a wellness problem, it's gotta do well here, okay? So.
Well, there's two things that I handed out to you. One of them is a report card that each individual gets. And basically, if you look at on the individual one, it's on the second or third page. It gives you a score, like going to school again. You get a score, and in this particular instance, this person, this Randy Johnson, scored a 50. He didn't do very well. And then the second year he took the test, he scored an 80. And what this gentleman did to improve his health was he quit smoking and he lowered his blood pressure, and that was a big part of him improving his health. And that's what this program is all about. So the idea is that we identify what the problems are, then we put the programs in place to help them. For example, if you have a lot of people that smoke, you might want to put in a smoking cessation program. And the idea is that we increase the overall health of the group and each individual so that we can increase the wellness of the employees of the county, which translates into lower costs for the county. And actually, our goal is what we call negative inflation or negative trend, actually dropping the cost of the program. And I think this is the goal, and I think it's a very attainable goal, and that's kind of what this is all about. In a nutshell, I didn't mean to rush through this, but it's kind of hard to be against wellness as a concept. So, and most of the programs already in place. It's just kind of an addition and a kind of a forcing the issue.
When will the employees be able to start having a report card done on them?
Well, we're hoping in May we get it all going. Yes. This also complements one major factor. Young people do not go to physicals, yet they may have a lot of physical problems. And so this will commit the young people to do the initiation into a physical.
It really does. It's important for us to do this. I mean, I just, from a personal standpoint, it made all the difference in my life. Like having somebody tell me that I was not in the best health possible,
Well, we'd like the commissioners to be the first in line, kind of as a show of leadership in this. So you guys are going to be the first ones we're going to do.
Well, I don't have any problem. I pump iron every day.
It's not that. It's that hidden thing that we're trying to find, and I think once you see this in action, I think you're going to be really excited about the program.
So moved, Judge.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Both motion carries.
Thank you.
And I just have one comment to make.
Yes.
I would hope that we historically track, when we start doing this program, what it does to expenses, especially when you compare folks that smoke and non-smoke. When you start getting baselines, if you could do some follow-up on those, because I think that we can see the differences in what healthcare costs will be for individuals with bad habits.
That's all part of this.
And the other thing is too, exercise. I mean, we've talked there at one time, we were having, aerobics and stuff in the central jury room, and, but we really need to think about setting up some kind of an exercise program for the county, because, it just makes all the difference in the world, and it really would affect our ability to deal with a lot of the health issues that we're facing today. I mean, just, the diabetes issue. I mean, if you got somebody getting on a treadmill for 45 minutes a day, it just makes all the difference in the world. Something where we might want to look at some kind of an investment, because I promise you, it'll pay itself back in lower healthcare costs with the county. And I really think it's something that we really need to examine. I've been contemplating doing a run with a judge thing on a couple of days that we can have y'all go out there and run with me for 45 minutes, but nobody wants to. Even my own staff doesn't want to do that. But I think it's good. I mean, think you really.
Judge, I'll help you. I'll just open the window, you know, pass you the water.
We'll follow up with a report
No,
on
it's an
how things go,
important issue.
and then next year, as that baseline has been established, we'll follow up again. So this will be an ongoing.
You'll have the
situation.
tracking in place.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's going to require a commitment from all department heads, because they're going to have to help us set up schedules and all that, so we can go to their department and have all their employees present there, so we can do this testing.
So what would happen to our premiums if we did a little run with a judge thing?
Well, it's hard to say. It depends on if anybody gets hurt or not.
Heart attacks.
Somebody passes out or something.
I'd first like to find out and get them well first before I
Whether you
count
can
them
run or
around.
not.
Yeah.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Before we do that, Constable Robles has been sitting out there for a little, real quick. He's got number 9, consideration of approval of classification on a part-time secretarial position for a full-time secretarial position. He's had this part-time secretary for 5 years or something like that.
Do we have the funding?
Well, we
Javier?
need to get the funding for it.
Javier, can we get the funding?
I think he's the only one that doesn't have a full-time.
Can you find the funding?
Actually, at this point, I would, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have the mid-year review. I would request that we wait till then, because there's some other issues that I need to address. This will cost about $10,000 for the remainder of the year to bring it up to a full-time. At this point, I don't. I mean, there's salaries in certain departments, but there's other issues that I need to bring to the court's attention to address
So
at
how
that time.
soon would it be?
It'll be a couple of weeks.
I think you need to find the funding.
Okay.
I think you do too.
I mean,
So I hear a motion to.
I so
I'll
move.
make the motion.
Commissioner, that's second by Commissioner.
Find the funding, okay?
Discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Thank you.
Motion
Go
approved.
Robles.
Thank you. All right, motion to go into executive
So
session.
moved.
By Commissioner Tamayo.
Second.
By Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. We're now in executive session. Pursuant to VCA Code Section 551.071, 1A, B, and 551.071. Second, Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Item 41A, possible action on confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning Cameron County versus Faulkner USA, formerly known as Landmark, approval of settlement agreement, motion to acknowledge report of counsel.
So move.
Motion
Second.
by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 41B, possible action on confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel regarding issues concerning issues regarding the Cameron County Detention Centers and the Cameron County Sheriff's Administration building. Motion to,
Acknowledge report
no, I think there was a, that was the one on the.
From Pete, acknowledge report from Pete.
from Pizza
But
Pulver.
are we supposed to do the new contract or with the architect?
Oh, so that's actually an agenda item on the supplemental.
It is? Okay.
Acknowledge
So we
report.
just acknowledge report on this?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 41C, motion to table. So was the Dancy Building, motion by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 41D, possible action on confer with Commissioners. Possible action on deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of land for a proposed park in the community of La Paloma Precinct 4 area. Motion to acknowledge report of Pizza Pulvera. I'm sorry.
And Javier.
Javier Mendez.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Pete.
Motion by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 41E, possible action on confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning liability issues at the Cameron County Jail. Motion to acknowledge report of counsel by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. 41F, possible action on confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning County of Cameron versus BFI Collection et al., cause number 2005-07-3905A for discussion of case and authority for settlement with ABC Waste Collection. Motion to acknowledge report of counsel.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. 41H, possible action on deliberation regarding the sale of real property for FM 511 expansion project. What did we do on that?
Just report from Pete.
Motion Did we do G?
Yes, we did. We acknowledge your report of
Okay.
Mr. Sepulveda.
Okay, 41H, possible action on deliberation regarding sale of real property for FM 511 expansion project. Motion to acknowledge report of
Mr. Sepulveda.
Pete Sepulveda. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay,
Motion to go back into regular session.
well, we already did that.
Did we?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, we've got, let me just, I know the sheriff's been waiting here for a while, and he's got item number 13, consideration of possible action, consideration and possible action regarding the selection and award of RFP 051105 for infirmary medical service for Cameron County Jail and Detention Facilities. Is there a motion on that?
So moved, Judge.
Motion to table.
Motion to table.
Motion by Commissioner Benavides.
Second.
By Commissioner Wood. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. We're still looking at this, Sheriff, okay? So, we're gonna, I need to sit down and talk to you, and we've got some thoughts in mind, and we wanna explore them with you. And I'll get with you.
Well, we appreciate that, and we'd like to give you,
But we hear your concerns.
thank you.
Who else has been waiting for a while? Oh, John. 4, presentation update, an update of status of West and North Rail projects.
Remember, we have a supplemental item.
What was that?
I haven't seen that one.
Edith.
That's the Agita thing?
Yes.
Go for it.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioner, I'm John Hudson with JWH and Associates. Today we wanted to present you a progress report on the West Rail project. This same presentation will be presented to the Brownsville City Commission next week. And on March the 28th, this is basically a similar presentation that we presented to the Binational Conference on Bridges and Border Crossings in Yuma, Arizona. So this is to give you an update on where we are in progress and where we're going for this year. The West Rail project, as you know, has been on the agenda since the year 2000, and significant progress has been made. The agencies that are part of this project, coordination with this, you know, all these agencies, of course, the new agency, the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority, is now part of this plan as part of a source for financing, part of the West Rail. Over on the Mexico side, of course, the TFM Railroad no longer is there. It's the Kansas City Southern Mexico Railroad. Meetings have taken place with them in Monterey to come up with their cost and to finalize their estimate of the, we'll see some action on that.
What's
Yes.
SCT?
Secretary of Communications and Transportation. That's the federal government that deals with transportation in Mexico.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wondering.
Yeah. It's, when I spell it out, it takes a whole slide.
Okay.
Of course, you're very familiar with the origination of this project in the 1970s, the completion of the Palo Alto project, and then the last phase of the North Loop. This was called the North Rail Loop. Next button to Pete. That completed that phase that was under the direction of the Port of Brownsville. And then from that stage was to construct 7 overpasses through the downtown area. And March of 2000, a new direction took place through the public involvement process. The West Rail corridor was located. You know, this was a different corridor than it originally started, but this is a corridor that has the environmental approval. And then most significant, of course, is picking up from the Rio Grande over into Mexico, West Matamoros. Major part of their project is relocation of both their railroad switch yards, the downtown switch yard and the La Rosita switch yard in Matamoros. The West Rail project shown on this slide, of course, is through the mainly all farmland. There's no residential areas that will have to be disturbed. And this shows the traverse route around the World Birding Center, then directly north-south across the river and tying into Mexico's phase and relocation at that same point. Right now, this is a very important aspect. When the rail is relocated, we end up with 100+ feet of right-of-way all the way through this line, through the downtown area and across the B&M Bridge project. So part of this, as you see in that red line, the present proposal is to construct a new controlled access toll road along that route. That is the project that recently has been evolved into the Regional Mobility Authority in cooperation with TxDOT. A very important aspect of this is the TxDOT Transportation Commission is meeting in Brownsville this month. Part of this project will be presented requesting TxDOT to provide funds for the West Loop project, and those funds would be funding to buy the railroad right-of-way and to pay for the cost to relocate the rail. So you'll see in a slide following in a few minutes here the need for additional funding. That is one of the sources of additional funding that we're pursuing to complete construction of the West Rail project. Previous tasks completed. The first major feasibility study completed in 2002. Agreements with the Union Pacific Railroad have been developed. Most significant is the finding of no significant impact for the environmental assessment along this corridor.
That's for the rail corridor, not the West Loop, right?
This is the West Rail corridor.
Okay.
And then the presidential permit for construction of the rail, then IBWC approval, concept approval of the bridge across the Rio Grande, and then the engineering design for the bridge and the rail system itself. This past year, we moved the engineering design to 85% complete. We're still working with TxDOT on the design of the railroad over US 281 and the bridge structure to allow 281 to be expanded to a 6-lane divided highway in the future and not have any impact on the bridge crossing. We have began appraisals of all the different parcels of land along the West Rail. There's 21 parcels of land to be acquired. Appraisals have been ordered. Some appraisals have been received, and we're in negotiation with property owners to purchase right of way along the West Rail. Significant also is the federal funding. Every year, I think the judge gave a report earlier about the trips to Washington. The trips to Washington so far by the commission have resulted in us getting for the West Rail project $6.63 million, and very similar on the North Rail, even additional funding. So these trips to Washington, this is what we're asking for. Again, the trip that the judge and commissioner just got back from, we're asking to continue funding in this area. This is one of the significant areas that keeps this project going with federal funds. And we have monthly coordination meetings with the Mexican agencies, and quarterly we have all agencies here meeting at Los Tomates, so we know what's going on in Mexico as well as they know what's going on here. The funding status, we have a commitment from the UP Railroad for $3.5 to $4 million, depending on the value of their property. As I mentioned, federal funds, $6.63 million. Hopefully, we'll get some more this year. City of Brownsville 6th 7th Street bond funds that we have been using. The Cameron County funds in this area are funds that are being diverted to the city of Brownsville for the East Loop. In turn, Cameron County is using city of Brownsville's funding of $2 million for the 6th and 7th Street. And then the present request before Washington in Safety Lou, which is a new transportation bill, is $12 million. Obviously, we don't anticipate getting all $12 million, but we'd be glad to earmark that for construction. And in the last 2 years, all of a sudden, every presentation to a transportation conference, to the Texas Transportation Commission, has focused at rail. In the last 3 years, rail all of a sudden has become finally a transportation issue. Previously, it was just highways based on gas tax revenues. Now people realize that putting dollars into rail, improving rail, takes trucks off the highway and improves rail is also a transportation project. So now we see a lot of requests. There's at least 15 requests in the state of Texas for rail. When this project first started, this was the only one. The other funding sources, as I mentioned earlier, through the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority, that funding would come through TxDOT, providing equity funds to the Regional Mobility Authority, which in turn would purchase the right-of-way along the West Rail project that comes through the middle of the city. And whatever that value is, we have a commitment from the UP to put that money back into the West Rail project. Also, there's grade separation funds that TxDOT has earmarked along this route for the rail to be removed. We've been working with them to get some of those funds reassigned to the West Rail, particularly the US 281 overpass, because its design is being accommodated for the future highway system that is to go through there that doesn't presently exist. And the design is increasing in cost in order to provide for the future capacity. And also, important aspect is TxDOT's transportation bill, and the new federal bill has provisions for $200 million to be allocated to the states based on their railroad plan. We've been working with TxDOT in their multimodal division for the West Rail to be submitted to Washington for the state of Texas for federal funding in this coming allocation.
This is the first time that those bonds will be used, right?
Yes. Project needs. Project needs are final design of the IBWC, the bridge for IBWC and SELA approval. SELA is the companion to IBWC across the border. We are also working with Mexico's Water Commission, CNA. CNA has requested additional cross sections and hydraulic analysis, and that's underway as part of the engineering study. To complete the engineering design, of course, the only thing that needs to be completed now is the final design of the international bridge. We have a schematic design submitted, and I'll talk a minute in another slide about what issues need to be finalized there. We have to purchase 21 parcels of land along the West Rail. We have discussed each partial acquisition and the alignment with each of the property owners along this from the very beginning, and now letters of offer should be sent to them probably within the next 30 days, the ones that haven't got those at this time. We're funding support from the federal agencies and the state agencies, TxDOT in their multimodal division, as well as the State Transportation Commission request for additional funds to be allocated to the West Rail project indirectly through the toll road system. Now, the important aspect right here, the next step is we would expect the judge to commission and commissioners to have a trip to Omaha to do a final a memorandum of understanding with the railroad. This would be the first time to put all the documents into one agreement that would specify the operating process along the West Rail, ownership, how the transfer of property is to take place from Cameron County back to the railroad. It would also define in writing through a legal document the sale of their present right-of-way. We have talked to the attorneys in Omaha that are developing this agreement, and typical for the railroad, they always say next week, and that for the last 2 months that's going on for the next week. And then they said hopefully before Easter. Well, Easter's coming close, so I would expect this to be a trip to Omaha to review it, get it through the email first, go there to sit down and review that. But it's a very important document because that ties all the issues between Cameron County, City of Brownsville, and the UP down into a contract document as far as how this process is to take place. Once this document is, an MOU is developed by the railroad and agreed to by Cameron County, then a similar document will be exchanged or developed with Mexico. And the Mexico portion of the MOU will relate to the International Bridge and the B&M Bridge Company. That is the international aspect of this project. And of course, begin construction. We're very aggressive. We believe that with funding from U.S. funding as well as Mexico funding, we would like to visualize construction beginning this year. Now, very similar, as I said, we meet monthly with our cohorts in Mexico. Felipe Ochoa and Associates is the consultant that is developing many of the technical studies for Mexico, the feasibility study, the environmental study, the schematics. Their financial study is being developed by a separate company, Protejo, and they are structuring a bond program for Mexico that will fund different aspects of the Mexican project. The land use study for the west part of Matamoros is an element that has been developed by Felipe Ochoa Associates. The scope for the environmental studies has been developed. Schematic plans for the rail and switch yard have been developed. Cost estimates for Mexico Park project have been developed. And in coordination with the different Mexican agencies, there's the City of Matamoros, the State of Tamaulipas, SCT in Mexico City, as well as the Water Commission, CNA, and SELA. All of those agencies are the primary agencies that we coordinate with, but the Mexican coordinator coordinates with multiple other agencies to include Mexican Customs, Immigration for this project. As I mentioned earlier, a basic schematic has been done to give you an orientation of this of the aerial photograph. This is the Rio Grande. This is, I think, Riverbend Golf Course subdivision over in this area. This is US 281. Well, the bridge itself, the rail bridge, it goes over US 281, over the US levee at this point, stays elevated, and then goes over the Rio Grande, and then goes back into Mexico. The present levee is at this location. We have been working with Mexico to realign their levee, very similar to what we did on Los Tomates here, to realign their levee along this alignment as shown here. Hydraulic studies along the river have shown that the realignment of the levee in Mexico will not impact the water surface elevation throughout this area. Now, the reason why to relocate this levee is to eliminate the rail cost for a bridge structure from this point to this point. Essentially, you spend about $250,000 to save $6 million, the difference in relocating the levee versus building the rail bridge. That is the reason why the bridge is not in final form designed to submit to IBWC, is because we must first get concurrence from Mexico, which is SELA and CNN, for the levee relocation. That's underway as we speak, the discussion. This is a very large drawing put on a small slide, but this shows the Mexico switch yard to the west. This shows all their tracks. Significant in Mexico is a multimodal facility, which truck transport can bring their trailers into the new yard, switch them over to trains, and then they can come either northbound or southbound into the United States. This slide is the financial plan. It shows, first of all, the first column shows that the construction cost of this project is roughly $25 million, and you go through the different phases that are completed, the balance left, and the source of funds for this project, as I mentioned from a previous slide, the minimum cost from the railroad is $3.5 million. City of Brownsville funding, what's allocated up to $1.5 million. Then Cameron County, $545,000. Federal highways so far is $6.63 million. But the last column is where we're really focused at. $13 million we still need to complete, we need to designate or have designated funds of $13 million to proceed with construction. So that's a key element, and that's part of the trips to Washington, the meetings with the Texas Transportation Commission. Key element of that is one of our district engineers from down here, Amadeo Science, that Pete Sepulveda has had a number of meetings to discuss this project to get some of the funding. This is a project schedule that we're presently working on for 2006. The areas in red are meetings that the judge is scheduled to take place to involve negotiations with the railroad, meetings with the Texas Transportation Commission, meetings individually, as well as presentations before the Texas Commission. The right-of-way issue, the critical path in all of this is the acquisition of right-of-way in order to start construction in November. So construction in November could commence, provided number one is we have the additional funding that we need. Number two, we have purchased all the right-of-way or have agreements for access on the property and continued negotiations, and then the project can start. Anticipated construction schedule for this project as well as Mexico is 12 months. So it's a very aggressive schedule, and I'll be glad to answer any questions, but this is just a progress report to you, and then the same report will be presented to the city of Brownsville. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you bringing it to us, and so the public also is aware of it. It's a project that's been going on for a while, as you indicated, and we still have some work left to do, but it seems to be going well. I appreciate all your work in it.
Can we have a copy of your PowerPoint presentation?
You bet. I'll email it out to you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We've got it in a binder with kind of executive.
No, I don't mean, I just want the one you stick in the computer and look at. Okay.
Hard copy.
No, I don't want paper. I don't want
Okay,
paper.
we'll give you electronic.
Yeah, electronically. Just much easier than to mess with.
I agree.
Thank you, sir. Because, you know, that's good. Is this what's going to be presented to the TxDOT Commission meeting? Or a version of this?
Well, yeah. Coordinate that, but to the approach to the Texas Transportation Commission has to be a different approach, because they look at the project and they visualize the project as the West Loop toll road. That's their project, not the West Rail.
The West Rail is a byproduct of the West.
Ancillary project.
For them to fund or supplement funding to the region.
For the RMA.
RMA is the first element that we're asking for, is funds to buy the right of way, and then funds to relocate the rail. When those two items, if TxDOT will provide equity, that's the source of money so we can start construction. So the presentation to TxDOT will be more than total.
Right, and what we're doing there is, what's going to trigger TxDOT funding the right-of-way acquisition and funding the relocation of the rail is a FONSI on the West Loop. And that's being done through TxDOT. They have, through their Evergreen contract, the firm of PBS&J that's doing the environmental assessment.
And how far along are they on that?
You know, we're hoping for some time in October, November to be able to get a FONSI. And that's, you know, an aggressive schedule, but a schedule that they feel is realistic. So, that's the status on the West Rail. The status on the North Rail, last week the city of Harlingen terminated their contract that they had with HDR to do the environmental assessment on that project. And they also agreed to allow the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority to take over the project. So we're in the process of negotiating a scope and a fee schedule with the RMA's GEC, which is HNTB. We actually have an agenda item for this coming Thursday to approve that work authorization if we're able to negotiate that.
Does the county need to have an MOU with the RMA in regards to that project? I mean, it would seem that there would be an instrument in place, because we've been partnering with the city. We have an agreement with the city of Harlingen as a county, not an RMA. Okay?
Right. We probably will, because if y'all recall, the court had authorized $500,000 to do the environmental assessment and the schematic for FM 509, and we had tied both the rail
Together.
relocation and the 509 project together. So we'll draft an MOU that will include the county and the RMA, so that we can, for one, designate the county as our partner, but also to for the funding for FM 509.
Right. So we would need to make sure and get that done as soon as possible.
That's number 4.
That's number 4.
Just a motion to acknowledge it.
And I think you need to add one more thing, Mr. Sepulveda.
It's not an action item, I don't think.
Acknowledge, but I think you need to add one more thing, though, that also you are at the point of negotiating the scope of work with HNTB and a contract amount for the RMA.
Right. Yes.
So it's not just sitting out there. It's next week it'll be on the agenda for the Harlan City Commission meeting, and this week for the RMA.
Right.
Move to acknowledge report.
Second.
There's a motion to acknowledge report by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Garza. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's hurry up so we can have a quorum, because
We have a quorum.
but you know, if we take any longer, somebody else might leave, so let's go to number 5 here.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Sorry. Presentation and second quarter report from the International Bridge System.
Okay, real quickly, if you go to the tab that says Bridge System, the second page at the top says International Bridge System revenues. If you look at the bottom of the page on the right-hand side, through the first 6 months of the year, we've collected $9,064,000. You go to the last page on that same tab, that's basically the analysis. Through the first 6 months of the year, we're $148,000 above what was actually budgeted for revenues and expenditures.
What kind of impact was seen at the Gateway Bridge during spring break, Pete?
It was a little bit higher, I think about 8% higher than last year, but if you recall, last year it was real slow. So we're really not back to the level we were 2 years ago.
Yes.
We're still considerably down.
Okay.
What do you think, Pete? What do you think?
There's several reasons, things, that are happening in northern Mexico. A lot of students, I think the island did have a good turnout, but they just didn't come across and go into.
And they're having more and more activities.
Is most of the variance at the Veterans Bridge in the larger vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
Commercial vehicles.
Okay.
As well as the seniors.
Move to acknowledge.
Second.
There's a motion to acknowledge report by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Wood. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we go to number 5, right? Okay. Number 5, items for discussion and action. 5, budget amendments, line items, transfer and or salary schedules.
Any? No? So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Wood. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 6, approval of minutes, January 24th, regular meeting, January 31st, regular meeting, February 7th, regular meeting, February 14th, special meeting, February 14th, regular meeting.
All of those were posted on the.
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Wood to approve, and second by Commissioner Garza. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. Okay, item number 7, approval of claims.
Provided you with copies of some additional claims. And have given them to the clerk included in the minutes. You want me to read them in, or you just want to accept them as presented?
I can't hear you very
I think we
well.
can accept them as presented, because they're all routine, and there's a lot of them to read in.
No, that's.
I move that we approve the claims as presented with the addition that we presented this morning.
Second.
There's a motion to approve claims by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Wood. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Any information in regards to the funeral services?
Two more at St. Anthony's.
Two? At St. Anthony's, thank you, sir.
Visitations today.
Okay, okay, thank you. That's on Mark Yates' dad.
Judge asked me to ask the commissioners to table item 11. Can I entertain a motion on this?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Wood to table item 11. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 12, consideration action, creating support staff for the implementation of civil service systems.
Commissioners, I had a position that was being held by one of my law enforcement safety officer, and with this new implementation of civil service, and before I had one law enforcement officer, I think with the need to do this civil service and to add this staff person and redistribute that, and in the whole array of things, I had requested initially that I would need an additional person for this work. And so I have outlined how I could redistribute that money, and we're all going to increase in our responsibilities. There's a great amount of work that's going into this civil service. So I've done all that. Every one of my employees will end up realizing an increase, but we've also going to increase the responsibilities and the work that is going to be coming up with the addition of the civil service and all the existing additional project with this new wellness program. It's going to require that we be out in the field a lot. And then we're going to be doing the open enrollment, the cafeteria plan, and the additional health fair, and maintain our office in full operation. I'm not requesting any more additional staff than that one person. So.
And the money's coming from the vacancy that you have? The money's coming from the vacancy?
Exactly, all the money's coming from that vacancy.
What was the original position that was vacant?
It was Abel Perez, the law enforcement officer, law enforcement safety training officer.
Okay, so.
But I still have John Frizzell.
Yeah, so in essence, what I'm hearing is that we'd never needed that position.
Well, we used it and we did it, but.
He retired.
I know, but we
Yeah.
didn't, I mean, if we're not replacing it, we didn't need it.
Well, we did because we were able to expand a lot of the services, a lot of the training that we were doing. We went into doing the mental health training. It was not a safety training. We did training for that. It was a 3-day training program. We went and expanded on our training for the emergency response driving. We did it in greater amount. We expanded the first aid CPR training for the defibrillators, which we've already done just about everybody, including the aides at the learning centers. We did all their first aid training. It was about 45 people that we ended up doing in the health department. So we did get a lot of use of that position. It was not just a person just sitting around doing nothing. Yes, we utilized to expand in other areas, and that's what it is. But right now, as we heard with the budget and on the constable, an addition of another person, it was my thought that we could satisfy all that without increasing or requiring any additional funds. And that's all I was trying to accomplish.
Are we in another agenda item hiring a consultant? Right?
Yes.
What agenda items? I know.
It's,
I can't remember.
It's over on consent items,
Right.
number 25.
Okay. And that total is how much?
It's between 20 and 25, I think.
right?
Yes. The,
Should we not wait for them to give us some direction before we start adding staff and doing things? I mean, I'm just,
well, it's gonna be implemented in June 1st. I mean, the order there is that it's gotta be in place and ready to go June 1st of 2006.
I would have hoped that the firm we're hiring, though, would give us some direction as to what the needs are for operation of what we're gonna be doing. I mean, it seems like we're having to put the cart before the horse here. You know,
We're already doing a lot of that work for that. We're supplying them all the information that they require. They've already sent us a list. They want job descriptions, they want salary schedules, they want salary
Yeah, but that's
procedures.
part of personnel.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's part of
that's
what
what
they
personnel
do.
does.
Yeah, that's what we do. We supply them all that data, yeah. That's what I'm saying, we're doing. a
Yeah,
lot
but
of that
that's
work.
not necessarily a civil service issue. That's like what you normally do with your personnel department. I mean, you are in charge of keeping salary schedules. You are in charge of keeping health care, you know, stuff in place. You are in charge of having proper, what is it that each one of us has, or like job descriptions? I mean, that's what you do now, right?
Yeah, we do that. But we also.
Am I the only one? You know, I mean, if I'm the only one thinking in that direction, we need to vote and move on, you know? I mean,
Well, but I need to know what you want to do.
well, you know, I just want to understand what we're doing here.
Well, you want to
We gotta
table it, or-
prepare, we gotta prepare for going out into the field and doing all this training for the civil service to the employees and to the supervisors. That's something that human resource hasn't been doing.
I think we've been talking about from the onset that we were going to, if we're going to keep the civil service in-house and have the civil service director in-house, then we were going to have to create some position to be able to do that. And what you're proposing is using funds from a position that's vacant now that will not be refilled.
That's correct.
To do it.
That's exactly right. We're gonna have to be doing a lot of copies of all the rules. We're gonna change our personnel policy, because you're removing all the hiring practices, all the grievance practices, all the salary structure, the way it's gonna be handled. We're gonna be testing for all new employees, we're gonna have to do testing. We're not testing new employees. We're not posting 100% of the positions. There's a lot of things that are
What's the scope of work of what these folks are gonna do? I thought they were gonna put in place a template for us to use to do those things. I mean, why are we gonna pay them between?
They're gonna do the rules. There's about 8 items that come out in the local government code that is required, that those rules need to be set to cover hiring practices, to hire grievance practices, to cover the salary structure, to cover promotions. It's also going to be done through testing and all that. So there's about 8 items that they need to establish in order to set up the rules.
A lot of the rules are kind of basic, from what I understand. Everyone uses pretty much the same rules. If we're talking about what this company will do from item 25, part of it is job categorizing. And, you know, for example, we have right now in the auditor's office, everyone from the young lady who answers the phone to Rob is an assistant auditor by title. And to have different, but people get paid differently.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to have to be some structure put up to classify these people in some form, fashion, or manner, whether you start with different phases of clerical 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and you know, different things. That's going to have to be structured to where we know what positions really are.
Yeah, but that's what Lynn, Fred, and Rose is
That's
gonna
what
do.
they would be doing, yes.
Okay.
That's part of what their deal. we're going to eventually, as we've always talked about, eventually need someone to run the civil service system, if we're going to keep it in-house.
And it's the same thing, the support to the Civil Service Commission. We will set up the grievance, and they will come and do their services as far as hearing the pros and cons and whatever. But we set all that up. We set up their meetings. We do the posting of their meetings. We do all the legwork because they have their regular jobs to take care of.
And that's really a civil service. You've got coordinator or director.
That's right.
Whatever.
And that's what I mentioned when we talked about going civil service. Let me give you a little something here that the state puts out. And I'm not requesting this, I'm just letting you know what, human resources is thought of to be just a small little outfit where people just walk in and out. But I don't need that anymore. I don't want that. But it's just an idea, okay? And I'm asking for one person.
And I have absolutely no problem with the one person. To be very honest with you, my only concern are the other two slots that we're giving raises to, and we're pulling out monies. We're selectively giving raises, which we just did to your assistant and to yourself, Manuel.
Well, 2 years ago, you all promised to come back and give me a raise. 2 years ago, and there was no money, and they said, okay, well.
I don't recall promises. I'll be honest, but if, if it's just a matter of what you gentlemen want to do on this one. I just, there's a lot of department heads that need raises.
Yeah.
And that's what you told me last time.
Yeah.
There was some that.
And there's a lot of department heads that need raises.
Well, you gave several of them raises that time.
You want to table it for a week?
I like for the rest of the people to be here.
Sure. I move we table item number 12.
I'll second that. At least let the rest of them be here to take the heat on it, John,
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 13.
14.
14, I'm sorry. 14, consideration authorization to enter into a business continuity service agreement with Presidio Corporation to redevelop the Cameron County Computer Center Disaster Awareness and Preparedness and Recovery Plan based on county business goals and objectives and system architectural and infrastructural design. Rudy?
Yes, this is a project that is budgeted and planned for since last year out of this year's budget. And what we're trying to do is we have a tactical plan that allows us to rebuild the data center should something catastrophic happen. What we don't have in place is a strategic plan based on the department's individual priorities. And so we'd like to bring this consultant, this networking consultant in and help us develop that plan from the strategic side and get the individual departments involved. Tell us what their priorities are, and should we have to go through a major reconstruction like a Hurricane Rita or something to that nature, we have a plan in place to follow.
Any questions on this?
And I've got funding in my budget for that.
One of the items on deliverable guidelines on page 24, Rudy, where they're talking about the schedule and deliverable description. Part of it says financial return on investment and total cost of ownership of current network and proposed strategy. What are they actually talking about here?
Well, what they're looking at is the equipment that we have in place in terms of its age and where it needs to be in the next couple of years. Should something catastrophic happen right now, what is our ability to recover some of that, replace that equipment? We need to make sure that the equipment is not so old that we can't buy replacement parts for it, or that they're available off the shelf should we need to relocate the data center somewhere else. So they look at the value of our equipment, and that's where they're going, I imagine they're going to determine their total cost of ownership.
Is this the only firm that does this kind of work?
They are not, but they are on the text mass, which meets all of the necessary.
So the price is
guidelines.
through the guidelines?
And with the advent of hurricane season just coming around the corner, I feel that we need to get this done very soon, especially after seeing what happened last year.
You say you have the money in the budget?
Yes.
I wish I could read this and understand it. Yeah, that's, you know, I mean, it's.
A lot of this information, I would think you probably already have, but maybe it's not put together in the format to be able to readily access it.
Well, it's like I mentioned, we have the technical side of it. We know what routers need to be put in place, the configuration, what servers need to come back online, the contacts at Southwestern Bell and whatever, what have you. What we don't have in place is, for example, should something catastrophic happen, who comes online first, the Sheriff's Department or the tax office? Who comes online first, emergency management, the county judge's office? If we bring the tax office on board, do they need 2 people for this location or to bring in 5 to 10 people? Well, those aren't decisions I can make. These are decisions that the departments have to sit down and says, well, these are my priority lists, and this is how many need. I can afford to operate this many people, these many workstations, this printers, and I can mobilize these human resources to this location should we have to relocate to the Harlingen area because maybe Brownsville got flooded and we shut down for a couple of weeks. This is the type of information that needs to come together so that I can modify my tactical plan. This is okay. If I have these 3 departments that are considered priority 1, and each of those departments are going to have 3 resources, then I need a total of 10 computers. I need these servers, and I need to be able to restore this information in this timely manner. And then after so much time passes by, this department comes online, and then this department comes online, until we do a full recovery back to normal business.
So we're really just looking at planning for recovering after a disaster type event. And documenting how we're going to do that.
Absolutely.
Besides the cost identified on page 16, there's no other cost in regards to travel?
There may be some cost in travel, which I have in my budget to take care of. And what we've discussed and we've agreed to is that they would adhere to the county travel guidelines. In other words, whatever the county policy is for hotels, not to exceed that.
So what do you anticipate the total cost being? Because now I see the page where it includes all the other travel, all the other.
Well, fortunately for us, though, one of the resources that's going to be doing the majority of the work is out of the McAllen area. So I believe they will be bringing 1 or 2 resources from outside the valley area. I'm going to assume that maybe there's about a 2 to 3 day travel charge in there. Most of the work that once the information's been gathered can be compiled at their home office. It doesn't have to be on site. They were very well aware of the budgeting limitations that I have, so this proposal was put together to meet my budget requirements and to make sure that we were able to come up with a good set of deliverables.
The timelines they have to deliver the 3 different phases, is that actually going to be workable to be able to deal with all the departments and all the elected officials and all the different areas?
Well, that one's a very difficult one to answer because in an ideal world, we should be able to accomplish this in that amount of time. But given the different schedules and priorities and conflicts that may occur within the individual departments, it may be a hit or miss. We may have scheduled a department for a day and they're not available. Maybe they're at a conference or something else. So we may have to get back with them. So I expect the time frame to stretch a little bit.
Do you expect the money to stretch any?
No.
You, Commissioner.
I move to approve, because I know that it's something that's important for us to be able to have in case of, if it's budgeted.
You've got a budget.
Yes.
Well, we've got to be able
In
to
his pocket, right?
come back
there.
up running. Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion to approve by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Wood. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 20, consideration and approval to use fund balance in road bridge for road materials, please.
I passed out a memo, I don't know if y'all have the memo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got it.
We've got it.
Excuse me.
Attached to the memo is a list of all the streets that we have done from October through the end of March. Some of those we might still be working on. What I didn't get was the number of miles, but if you look at those streets, it's a lot of miles of roads that we have done in a 6-month period. Our cost for materials expense has also gone up during that period, so in the memo that I gave to you all, I believe our current fund balance is about $1.9 million. And in order to, our balance in our road materials is roughly about $100,000. In order to continue the next 5 months, we'll have to go into our fund balance. I did check the balance that we have in the Colonia Fund this morning, and it's a little bit over $1 million. And I think we've got expenses totaling to about $700,000, so there's a $300,000 difference there. We're trying to balance that. I don't know if that's money that we get reimbursed for materials or personnel and equipment use from the Colonia funds, but we'll also look into that. But,
Can I ask you a question, please? I want to know how much have we spent per precinct?
we can get that information.
How much have you spent on precinct 1, 2, 3, and 4, as far as monies are concerned, materials, time, things like that?
Road miles are important also.
We can get that information.
Can you have that, you don't have it with you right now?
Not with me, but we can put it together pretty quick.
How much has been spent from the road materials budget already? We have about $100,000.
About 1.4.
How much do you expect to need to spend out of the fund balance for the next 5 months?
I would say probably about $500,000. We also have receivable to us from different entities that we have interlocals with. I think about $150,000, $175,000. So we add that money. We add the money from the colonias, and in the next couple of weeks we're about to start the second call projects in the colonia. So that's money that will get reimbursed from TxDOT for personnel and equipment.
The memorandum doesn't really point out, and the reason I asked what we expected to spend for the fund balance, because it doesn't point that out, but I would make a motion that we look at not more than $500,000 at this time. If something comes up, come back to us.
I'll second that. Only if I see more roads from precinct 3 in this list.
Or we'll email the breakdown. We've got the breakdown by the different areas.
I found one for precinct 2.
I know.
Motion to approve item 20 by Commissioner Wood.
You heard the condition, right, Mr. Zapata?
With the
Yes, those
$500,000.
conditions, yes, mentioned. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 21, consideration and approval of interlocal agreement between Cameron County and Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority.
Right, on the 16th of February, the court approved a $250,000 loan for the RMA. We drafted an agreement, and the legal department has reviewed it, made some corrections. The county auditor also reviewed the agreement, so it's up for your consideration.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve item 21. Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, item 22, consideration and approval.
There's no
of-
proposed budget for those expenditures yet, right?
We can develop one.
No.
not yet.
There's not one yet?
No.
Okay, that's fine. No, you don't need to develop it. Just-
You will be.
But we've got 3 different work authorizations that once they're final, I can prepare that in a
No
report to the
problem.
court.
We'll get to it.
Number 22
Let me read it. So, 22 is consideration approval of a resolution supporting the extension of I-37 or I-69 from Corpus Christi to Rio Grande Valley and pledging of funds.
In the last couple of weeks, we've had different meetings from Brownsville all the way to Corpus, and talking to the different entities, different governmental entities, and we came up with a language for a resolution that would support the extension of I-37 or the development of I-69. The idea that US 77 would be upgraded to an interstate standard into Cameron County. As it would come into the Harlingen area, it would veer into Brownsville. As you all know, part of I-69 was that FM 511 would also be designated as interstate standard. And then we would veer onto the west into Hidalgo County, all the way into Starr County, Rio Grande City. Then in Hidalgo County, in FAR, 281 headed north would also be included, and that's part of the same language in the resolution. The Harlingen EDC has passed the resolution, Willacy County has passed it, City of San Benito has passed it, the Corpus Christi MPO has passed the resolution, the City of Robstown and Kingsville have also passed it. It's on the agenda today at 2 o'clock for the Port of Corpus Christi. It's on the agenda next week for the City of Brownsville and the South Padre Island EDC. The San Benito Industrial Development Authority has it on their agenda for this coming Thursday. City of Harlingen, it's on for next week. Nueces County, tomorrow morning, the Commissioners Court meeting, it's on their agenda. We've sent it to the Brownsville and the Harlingen NPOs. Congressman Ortiz signed a similar resolution, and we have sent similar resolutions to Senator Lucio, Representative Oliveira, Solis, Escobar, and Herrero from the Corpus Christi area. In addition to that, the agenda item does have language of...
And the gentleman from McAllen, the senator from McAllen.
Senator Hinojosa.
I didn't want to mention the name.
The item has language...
But he represents Nueces County.
Yes. The item has language of pledging of funds for this project, and we're looking at, X amount of dollars for a period of 10 years. I did talk to the county auditor last week regarding sources of funding, and we identified some sources that the court could consider. And I don't know if you all want to wait until we have, the full court here, or...
I think we should move on this and get out of the way.
Approve it, yeah. I move to approve it.
I think that we should consider pledging. That's not means doing anything more than agreeing to fund...
Support the funding.
Support the funding effort to $250,000 a year for 10 years.
And that would not be this fiscal year.
We're not asking for that.
There's a motion by
No.
Commissioner Wood, second by
Second.
Commissioner Garza.
Would you agree to that, John? Okay.
That's good. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent items 23 through 38, and travel items 39A through 39O.
I wanted to make a comment about item number 26. Item 26 is to accept the following grant awarded to the Cameron County Juvenile Probation Department in the amount of $225,000 from the Department of Justice Weed and Seed Initiative. And I just wanted to comment that the Weed and Seed program has been going so well, and that's the only reason it's being continued to be supported by the Department of Justice, because it is a good program, and they recognize it's a good program. The relationship that the county has with the City of Brownsville Police Department and also with juvenile probation is exceptional, and that's what these people from Washington tell me about it. So they're very pro Weed and Seed program, and I move that we accept the consent items and travel.
Okay. Well, I've got a couple of questions.
Okay. Let me just do 26 then.
Okay.
Move on 26.
I'll second your motion on 26.
So there's a motion to approve item 26 by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Garza. Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Yes, have it.
Okay, Pete, I have a question on 29. Why are we doing off-site and on-site? Don't we normally do on-site imaging? And my concern there is when records leave county property. Is that what we do now? What do we do now? I have no problems with the on-site. I just want a little explanation on Mr. Forbes, maybe you can, what does off-site mean?
Off-site would mean that the records would be taken to a vendor's location and they would actually scan it into the documents.
Well, I have a concern with records leaving our county. Not county geographically, but county building or, when we lose control of those records as a custodian of records, I have a concern.
In this proposal, there's several ways you can handle that. This proposal allows for the court to actually review the questionnaire in the proposal, which addresses basically their treatment of and procedures for handling off-site documents. The court could either make that determination now in this draft as to if they would like to leave the off-site out at this point, or the court can so choose that once the information is received back from proposers and they review the response to the questionnaire relative to off-site concerns, they can then choose to omit the off-site award at that time.
So you're saying split up whatever they might propose to us,
Right.
on-site, off-site, or a combination thereof.
Right. There's a category A for on-site, category B for off-site. The proposal allows to award by category.
And I think, because we've talked about this once before, the on-site and off-site imaging, and that, I'm assuming that's why you've drafted the proposal that way, so we can look
To
at it.
accommodate y'all's level of concern
Comfort.
with the off-site issue, this gives some flexibility, and you can make the decision now, or you can make it at the time you review their responses to those questions when we receive the proposal.
I'm gonna have a concern, and I might be the only one in court, of doing off-site imaging. I've read the stories that have occurred in other counties about off-site and who becomes responsible and what happens to lost records that, I would not want off-site to occur. And that's just my thought, unless I can be convinced totally otherwise,
I know, I thought that'd be one of your concerns, and a lot of the questions on page 11 and 12 have the vendor answering a lot of questions as to what their game plan is, what are their procedures and controls for handling off-site document control. And before any decisions are made, I recommend that you review how they answer those questions when the proposals come back, before you make a decision as to off-site.
And I might be the only one with a concern, so it might be a moot point, so I
You want to act on that one individually, or?
Whatever you guys want to do.
I want to go ahead and pass it as is.
I'll move to approve consent and traffic.
I have some questions on those too.
Okay.
I don't mean to delay it, but.
No, that's all right.
Item C, this happened like over a month ago and we're just getting it? Is there any reason for that? I don't know if anybody here is, nobody's here with item C? I'm sorry? And then there's an expense there that I kind of question, out of curiosity if nothing else. Or item E, we're sending some folks to Garden Grove, California. We're on cost containment and we're sending people. And then item G, we're sending somebody to San Francisco. I can understand going to Washington DC if we're going to see about funding for from federal sources, going to Arizona when we're talking about border issues. But it seems that we're sending people far away I mean,
If these trainings are closer, we probably need to be scheduling.
Texas is a big state, you know?
Or Amarillo or Dallas or something.
Corpus or the island or, you know, I just find it difficult to think that the only training that could help early intervention officers to get on school resource officer training doesn't occur a little closer than Garden Grove, California.
Maybe we ought to have a, kind of like a workshop on this issue, you know?
Well,
Because it's
I
gonna
don't
be
know.
coming up
I mean,
again and again, you know? It's gonna be coming
It doesn't
up
come
and
up too often, but it seems to be more so. We have another request to travel to San Francisco to attend a conference on I don't know, there was just one page attached. It didn't explain to me very well what the conference was about, you know. But, you know, Texas is a big state. Elections are held in 254 counties. You'd figure a training relevant to what occurs in that department would occur within the state of Texas or maybe in Washington, you know. I mean, I just have a hard time paying exuberant hotel costs when it deals with county funds to be in a town like that.
Another question. Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
I understand there's a question about a travel from our department?
Yeah, on 39C.
Yes, sir.
Well, the question is, it's like a month ago.
I believe what happened, I asked about that myself. They went to a course that was reimbursed by the state, but for some reason when they did that, they didn't put in travel, but now the state paid for everything but their meals, and so I think this is so they can get reimbursed for their meals. The state paid for the transportation and the hotel and all of that. It's just they want to get reimbursed for their meals.
There's a gas expense there also.
Oh, there's fuel? I
Yeah,
thought they
so
went to county meals.
I read that, you know, and it says that it paid for that, but there was like a gas expense. So I
Well,
wondered,
that
we either
expense-
get reimbursed or we don't, right?
Yeah, that expense would need to be turned in. If they're put in for gas, they need to put that in, because the state pays mileage. So that what the county would pay them back is the meals. That's what we do on those trips.
Just the meals.
Just the meals. Either meals or if they rent a car, but they didn't rent a car. So that's, otherwise the state pays the lodging and the airfare or the mileage.
Okay, well, I on that one, I would approve what the state doesn't pay, which would be the meals.
The meals, that's what they do.
And on that other one, I have a real concern with that kind of expense on E.
E and G.
And on G, I cannot support. I mean, that's just one paper telling me what this meeting is about, you know, and I just don't know what's so important about that. I mean, provisional ballots, overseas ballots, poll worker training, statewide voter registration systems, accessibility studies, and general education sessions. I think the state of Texas provides that. The Secretary of State does a great job in this state in providing training.
We'll table it.
I would. Unless you want to, I mean, it just depends on what you guys want to do.
Should probably be in the state somewhere.
I'd like to approve it as is, but if you want to do that, let's go ahead and table.
E and G?
I would like to table, I can support C to the tune of the meals that are not covered by state funds, and, you know.
That's all they're asking for, no?
No,
On C?
no, there was
Because
more.
The gas and things like
Right.
that.
So.
So
And I don't-
there's
I
a
don't know.
motion to approve all of them except E
And I
and,
didn't want to go into N,
And
John,
G?
okay?
Yeah.
I
and
mean, N is
partially-
another one that I think that we need to start looking as to where we go, you know.
Well, that's the reason they have them over there, so people will go, but you're right.
You know, I mean, it's still kind of like, you know, I mean, I think that our budget officer needs to get more involved in the travel. and make sure that when you get us something, that,
If
I mean, we-
the questions E and G are, they're paid for by grant funds, and if the grant allows it, it's up to y'all to decide. I can say, well, maybe you can go somewhere else, but if the grant's paying for it and the grant allows them to take that travel, it's ultimately the board's decision.
right. But you're not telling me those are grant funds right
They
now?
are.
I was just gonna ask
Yes,
if-
the one for the juvenile probation, those grant funds, and the one for elections.
And there's
that's-
no other places that they can go for that training?
I'd have to ask them if there's somewhere else they can go for it.
I mean, we don't have to spend it just because it's, I don't, or maybe we do?
Well, these are grant funds.
Yeah, they are grant funds.
Commissioners, on item number 9G, I just spoke with Roger, and he said that the funds that are allocated for the training that he's going to is provided from HAVA, and those are HAVA funds that are providing for him to attend these educational programs that.
Yeah, but HAVA has conferences in many different places.
There last year as well.
I know.
So none of this is being paid by the county?
None of it is being paid by the county.
What do you guys want to do? Porque la tripa grande se está comiendo la chiquita.
On E, we have a combination of county and city officers going. Is that all within the same grant? It looks like two persons.
I think that they have noted on the bottom.
Yeah, it's two persons, meals and everything's for two persons. We're only paying air for one car rental. So that grant would affect the other officer going also, if we pulled it out.
I mean, a 2-1 vote.
Okay.
I mean, pays for it, so.
You make the motion to approve?
No.
No?
I can.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve.
So there's a motion to approve, and can I second that? I'm not.
Of course you can, Pete.
I'll second it. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Nay?
Nay.
Okay. Nay. There's the ayes have it.
There's one more item.
And we have one more item. It's a supplemental item. It says consideration and possible approval of amendments of contract between Cameron County and Aguirre Corp. extending a scope of work.
Pete, you want that taken care of, right?
This is the amendment that would include the scope for the fixing of the walls, and the fee that's being proposed by Aguirre Corporation is $13,800. And that's staff recommendation.
So moved. There's a motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Wood. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. See you next week.